Is this your computer?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're now going to start with solicitor announcements.
Yes. First, we're going to announce that we held an executive session earlier this evening to go over some of the legal questions that the board had on some of the applications. And then moving on to meeting procedures, we are hearing, there's currently 8 cases scheduled this evening, but the case that is 2-5 of 25, Parkwood Manor Apartments for a property at 83 South State Road, Upper Darby, PA, parcel ID 16-05-01322-00 in the R3 Residential District, has requested a continuance, and that matter will be continued to the March 25th, 2025 hearing at 7 p.m. in this room. So if anyone from the public is here this evening for the Parkwood Manor Apartments case, that matter is being continued to March 25th. So we have 7 other cases scheduled this evening that are scheduled to move forward. There's 2 ways to participate this evening if you are a member of the public interested in any of those applications. The 2 ways are either to participate by giving public comment at the end of every application before the board votes. They will ask for public comment. This is an opportunity to provide what you want to tell the board, but the other opportunity to participate is if you are interested in having what's known as party status. If you are interested in having party status, you believe that you may be aggrieved or negatively impacted by the application. The board will ask you some questions to determine if we believe that you're going to be entitled to have party status. If you're granted party status, you'll be given an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, and you'll be given an opportunity to present your own testimony. And if you do not agree with the decision of the zoning hearing board, you'll be able to participate by taking an appeal to the Court of Common Pleas of the zoning hearing board's decision. If you are interested in receiving party status, we do have party status forms, which I believe are up front over there. And that you'll be able to submit them you'll be able to submit them when we move forward on that application. And lastly, as there are 7 cases, and the board has a hard stop at around 10:30, if anyone is interested in continuing to next month to March 25th, please let us know, and we'll be happy to put that continuance on the record, and then you can come back to March 25th. We don't know what the agenda is going to be like on March 25th, but if you're waiting around and you don't feel like waiting around anymore, let us know in between cases, and we'll continue your case.
Okay, thank you. We will begin with application 1-1 of 25, Cindy Gillian. It's a variance from section 550-44C1 to permit a front yard porch projection of 24 feet when only 10 feet is allowed.
And we're going to mark a few items for the record as you're coming up. First will be ZHB1, which will be a copy of the application packet. ZHB2 will be a copy of the notice and photos, and ZHB3 will be a copy of the proof of publication. And we see that the applicant is present. If you can please give your name to the court reporter and to the board, and then we'll have you sworn in.
Hi, my name is Cindy Gillian.
Can you raise your hand, please? Do you swear or testify you're about to?
Yes.
So ma'am, why don't you tell us a little bit about the application that you submitted and what it is that you're requesting and what it is that you want to do with the property?
The property is 241 Sprinton Road.
I wanted like extension of the porch because it's more like cleaning from the area. And also other neighbors has already done that areas like I planning to do. So please consider my application.
In your application, you noted that the work was already done by a tenant of yours, correct?
Yes, exactly.
And you're
And I wanted like complete like appropriate, finish because it's not complete like finish, but most of the stuff is done.
and sorry, I didn't know if there was a question from the board before I go on. The existing porch in the front yard goes up to the sidewalk, correct?
Yes,
And a lot of your neighboring properties have that similar porch setup, correct?
exactly.
Board members have any questions?
So currently, who lives in the property?
The house is for rent, so the tenants living there.
So tenants are currently living there?
Yes,
And when was this modification done or addition done?
last year.
24?
Yes.
And may I ask why the proper permits were not filed or applied for?
I was upside from the country when that happened. So I from Honduras, we are Spanish, and sometimes like we are afraid to do the right things in the right way. Like for example, I literally speak English, but sometimes writing and do the right thing is a little harder. So I think he trying to do good for the house, but probably he doesn't really follow the good instructions. And when I come back, it's already like done. He thinking looks good, and it is looks good. And according to the neighborhood, looks like the same. So in my opinion, it's like he acting like in good conditions, but he doesn't probably do like the right way to do that. So I'm here because I wanted to do the right way to do that. Because I always had a houses for rent and I pay my taxes on time, everything is correctly. So when I come back from my country, I found this and I trying to do the right way to make it right, to make it, legal.
Just to be clear, you are not intending to add any further construction?
No, it's just a Porsche. It's like an open Porsche.
Yeah, but it's already done.
Yes. Can be finished better? Yes, but we stopped because we wanted to do, the right way. It's like we has to painting, we has to make sure like it's good. Like I don't say it's not good, but can be better, because we stop because we're trying to do the right way. Like we has to cover and ceiling, painting. Like now it's like it's good, but can be better too.
So the things that you think are left to do is cosmetic thing, like the way it looks. You're not building anything else physically. You're not adding to it,
No,
whether
no.
up or.
It's just
in
an
any-
open porch to extend the porch that we already have.
Mhm.
And looks good for the property. And according to the neighbors, looks good because other houses already have. Looks more clean, for example. It's like not trash because around to the upper Darby is trash everywhere because people leave the trash upside from the trees. Sometimes the animals coming there and eating, and the trash is everywhere. For example, with this porch, looks like more clean. You know what I mean? Like looks like neat, and the house looks better too. And also the foundation of the house is concrete across, like the patio is concrete, and the material is I think is cement. So if it's not like that, will be like just looks like, for me, my opinion is looks better like that way. Either if we didn't get the permission before, probably he don't know how to do that. I think now how it looks better.
What about the, like, safety of it? Like, are you gonna get it, I guess if you get approved, you'll have to get, or I guess this is a question for the zoning officer. If she was approved for the variance, would she have to retroactively get building permits to legalize it?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't try into a construction in there. It will be an open porch that is already open. And it's like a little fence around too. I mean, it looks good for my opinion.
Are you
And I
adding,
trying to be legal, like,
are you adding any further fencing?
no.
Is that fencing completely around the front and the side? It looks like it from what I can see in the photo.
Yes, it's finished. It's finished.
Besides aesthetics, were there any other reasons that your prior tenant had given for why they needed this patio to be cemented?
For cleaning,
Or just cleaning?
just cleaning, and the view looks better because the patio is not like a small patio, and then you will be see a lot of like trash around because it's already built it up like tall. So if the trash coming from other houses will be just pass, don't coming inside to the house. Also the animals when they, for example, right? I love the dogs, but some people just walk in the dogs and just let the dogs poo poo on the sides. With this porch, because it's enough tall, so the dogs doesn't come in and do poo poo and then, will be there because some people doesn't pick up. I'm sorry to say that, but some people just walking and left the dogs there. With that porch, looks like more clean, plus the view looks better. It looks like neat and bigger. And also can be private and open to the property too, because it's opening and can be like more like private because has the fence.
How many, you mentioned that this is a rental property. How many properties do you own in the township?
Right now in that strip is two.
Just two?
Is two.
And does
And-
have you informed your other tenant about the consequences of doing work like this?
Oh yes, sure.
Okay, so like we're not gonna see this again?
No,
Okay.
no,
All right.
no. I mean, for this house, 241, Spanish people like me living there.
Okay.
And that's I say to you, like sometimes we thinking, oh, for me it was hard to come here, number one. I visit him like different times trying to do the right thing. And I hope so. I trying to do my best, you know what I mean? It's kind of hard. I can accept it. It's kind of hard. So, and I'm here to accept whatever decision you want to make it. But I don't think that will be affecting the community. It's not affecting the community. I think the house looks better, looks in good condition. And if you see my records in the township, like I always pay on time, I had the permit license right. I mean, I'm opening for any right things.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that was interested in this application to seek party status? Okay, seeing none.
Seeing there's no party status, I'd like to make
Sir.
a,
Public comment too?
oh, I'm sorry. Is there any public comment?
Does anyone have any public comment on this application? If so, please come up and we'll get your comment stated in the record. Okay, seeing none.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, you have been approved.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I was really,
So ma'am,
Thank
you'll
you.
receive a letter outlining that this has been approved, but as was stated by one of the board members, you also have to circle back with the zoning officer to get the permits as well.
thank you, appreciate it.
Okay. Moving on to 1-425, Halal Brothers Live Poultry and Meat LLC. The application address is 3 Kelly Street, Lansdowne, PA. It's in a C4 Commercial Industrial District. And they are applying for a special exception from Section 558A to permit the housing, slaughtering of live poultry, goats, cows, and retail sales. B, variance from Section 558A to permit 20 parking spaces where 39 spaces are required. And C, a variance from Section 550-34G to permit a loading area which is visible from Kelly Street, a primary street. Hello.
Hello.
And we're going to mark for the record a few items. ZHB1 will be a copy of the application packet. ZHB2 will be a copy of the notice and the photos. HB3 will be a copy of the proof of publication. Mr. Shafkowitz, how are you?
Good. Mr. Glassman, good to see you.
Thank you. Is there anyone that is requesting party status on this application? Okay, Mr. Shafkowitz says there's no one requesting party status and we have a full agenda. Perhaps it would be okay if you want to do an offer of proof?
That would be great. I actually was going to suggest that for purposes of the particular use that we're proposing here. By way of introduction, my name is David Shafkowitz. I'm an attorney. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, who is the equitable owner of the property, Halal Brothers Live Poultry and Meat, LLC. The property, as noted, is located at 3 Kelly Street. It's located in the Township C4, as you had mentioned, Commercial Industrial District. The property is located actually on the corner of Kelly and Baltimore Avenue. It is currently improved with a 6,000 square foot structure and a parking area that isn't really well defined as of yet. The existing structure is being used as an auto repair shop as of now. And as we noted, the applicant seeking to change the particular use to what sounds worse than it probably is, but a slaughterhouse slash poultry market. What that means is that my client is the owner operator of a farm further up north in Pennsylvania, where they house the livestock. What happens is, for this particular use, is when they receive an order, mostly for the larger animals, which would be like a cow or goat, the applicant will have the animal shipped down to the site. When it's shipped off hours, usually earlier in the morning. It's not housed on the location. It's not there for any extended period of time. Unfortunately, the life of the creature will not be very long when it's there. And it's, with the larger animals, it's only done on special order. So what we would expect is, for purposes of like a cow or a goat, it would be one a week type of thing. And the animal will be rendered almost immediately and would be sold for special order if somebody had already told them. There will be no storage of animals. What you'll see more on a daily basis is the poultry market, where the poultry will come in, be handled, and that would be mostly what's going to be offered for retail sale. As you probably know, this is being done to meet a need for religious purposes. That the way the animals are handled, they're handled for purposes of religious purposes, it's not necessarily, not that anybody from the general public couldn't use it, it's generally not what they're using it for. It's for the religious purposes. The applicant is ultimately going to be proposing to be open 7 days a week. The hours of operation would be 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. We expect to have 8 total employees, new employees, working 2 shifts of 4 employees each, which we'll talk a little bit about the parking. As we had noted on our plan, there is approximately 25 parking spaces depicted on our new plan. Thank you, Josh, for putting that up. Mr. Glassman, I believe that was probably included in our packet, so I don't know if we need to mark it as another exhibit.
Was included in the application packet.
So as you can see from the plan that's being proposed, with regard to this particular use, we have a 6,000 square foot building. We're going to stripe and improve the parking lot. We're going to landscape. And when it was surveyed and measured, we had 25 parking spots.
Clarify. So
Sure.
the application to advertise for 20, but there's actually 25 spots.
Well, I'll explain. I was going to explain that part. That's a great question. What it is we're reserving 5 spots for the building that's to the north or fronting on Baltimore Pike. So they will share our parking lot. As you can see now, it's not well defined at all. There's no landscaping, none. But we intend to improve the parking lot. We're going to share 5 spots with the user above us, and that'll give us 20 parking spots for our site. Like I said, we only expecting 4 employees at any particular shift, and that'll give us another 16 parking spots, give or take, for the retail component, which our proposal is ultimately to take the 6,000 square foot building and only have about an 800 square foot retail component and 5,200 square feet for the remaining use. Now, the part that's interesting about this particular use is that as quote as either a poultry market or a slaughterhouse type use, it's not specifically identified in the zoning ordinance, but your zoning ordinance does have a catch-all provision that says any use not specifically identified is permitted by special exception. And that's why we're here tonight on the use component for purposes of special exception. And Mr. Glassman, I did bring Mike Galante, our civil engineer, who would talk about those particular items that are set forth in your ordinance. But nevertheless, there are particular standards set forth in the township zoning ordinance with regard to review of special exceptions. There are 7 subcategories, which we believe that the testimony that will be proffered by Mr. Galante will show that the site is suitable for this particular use, that it is, will be within the character of the neighborhood. It's serving a public interest. It will not create congestion on any of the road networks, anything more than it regularly would. The part that's also interesting is that the building will be completely redone for this particular use, which obviously will require building permits and review with the township staff in that regard. Also for this particular use, just if the board was concerned that there are going to be special permits or more different types of permits from the Department of Health that will be required and that will be obtained. And there's also special ventilation that'll be proposed for the building. And there will also be waste disposal that'll be done on a more regular basis, almost on a daily basis, than you would in a regular, kind of the question would be, how does our trash get removed? So we handle that on a daily basis. There's a special hauler that handles these types of things that the applicant will hire to handle that component of the business. So having said that, the relief, as we mentioned, is for special exception. The relief related to the special exception is the criteria set forth in the ordinance that we believe that we do meet. And if the board is inclined, I can have Mr. Galante just go through those real quickly as part of the testimony. With regard to the variances, and one of the other components that I got to attest to, is the parking. As I said, with the limited amount of employees that we'll have on site at any one time, which we're willing to limit to 4, that'll leave us another 16 parking spaces for the smaller retail component for people coming in and out. And I think at 800 square feet, even if 1 per 100, we would need 8 parking spaces. So it looks like we would have parking to meet this particular use as defined. The second part of it is the loading and unloading, which we're going to propose to move towards the rear of the site, because if the board's familiar with the site, it actually backs up to the train tracks. So there's no user behind us. But nevertheless, where that little area is where we expect to kind of bring the trucks in and bring in the goods, so to speak. But that does front on Kelly Street. And that, from that perspective, that does require, because it has the loading and unloading from a public street, it does require that variance. Nevertheless, because this particular site is in the industrial district, it's not surrounded by any residential, same or similar uses in the area, we back up against the train tracks, and we're kind of hiding it as best we can from Baltimore Pike. We would hope the board would see that the property that's the best and place for this loading and unloading of this, for this particular use, and allows for us to essentially hide it as best we can in terms of from the busier street of Baltimore Pike. So I think I probably said a lot, and I hope, if the board had any questions of me, I can ask Danny, a principal of Halal Brothers, to come up and just
Yeah, let's just have your
affirm that
witnesses.
what I said was true. And
Yep, let's have both your witnesses do that and make them available for board questions.
raise your right
Can
hand.
you raise your hand, please?
Yes.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give
Yes.
have your full name, please?
MD Saida Jamal.
Can you spell that for me?
M like Mary, D like David, last name Sayduzzamam.
And we refer to, we're okay calling you Danny, right?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes.
All right, Danny, you heard my description of the proposed use of the property
Yes.
as both the slaughterhouse and for the retail component.
Yes.
Do you believe that the testimony that I offered to the board with regard to the proposed use was true and accurate?
Yes. True and accurate.
And that would be the same as if you were testifying
Yes.
correctly? I don't know if the board had any questions, but of the particular, how the use is operated, but hopefully we kind of shed some light.
Do you have, any floor plans of the interior of the building? I think you said, your testimony was you would only be using about 800 square feet for the retail and 52, I guess the net is like 5,200 square feet of, I guess, whatever else is going on in there. Do you have could you sort of describe what is populating that? I mean, that's most of the building, so that, I think that's probably as important to know what's going on in the retail space, right?
Yeah, I think like the idea would be, I'm sorry to, I'll maybe help just with that, but the idea would be that the front part portion of the building near where the handicap spots are would be the retail component. The livestock, so to speak, would be loaded in the rear of the building. I don't think we've like laid it out in particular in terms of how, that whole process works from, through the process of creating a product for sale. But when we come in for a building permit, we'll have it all laid out. But I think if the board were inclined to consider the application, we'd be happy to limit as a condition that the retail space will be no more than 800 square feet, because I know that can drive the parking. If there's more retail, it could be a higher parking component. So we would like to limit that because, like I said, a lot of the work is special order. The hours are relatively limited in terms of a retail component from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. So we don't expect to get crazy amount of retail traffic because most of the people place their order and come in at defined times to pick everything up. So that's why we can also keep the retail more limited as well. So, does that sound accurate?
Yes. Most of our client, they will just call and most of our client, they're basically order online or over the phones, and they just come and pick up. People not only stay and watching them, and so I don't think the parking will be issue on that place. And retail space is, we don't need that big retail space. 800 square feet is more than enough for this particular business.
I have a question around the aerial view or the photo that I look at online, the Google photo that I look at. Could you go to that? And so your building where the retail space, the slaughter space, can you show me? I see the gate between the building that faces Baltimore Pike and then your building. Where would the trucks enter? Is it at the end near the train tracks or right at that gate?
Right at the gate, right here. Exactly where the word, the friend word, this is the gate.
That's the gate into.
Yes.
Okay, so then it looks like there are garages. There's the building. So it looks like the broken line, yeah, like
Yeah.
that's the building. There where the word gas starts, the G, is that a part of?
Yes.
Yes,
So the two,
this is one basically.
Well, it looks like two buildings that are
Okay.
connected, but it's one
they
structure
connect
of
further
6,000.
back?
Yeah, the one up top is
Uh-huh.
not included.
Oh,
That's
it's
going
not
to be
included.
retained by the
The
existing owner.
current, okay, so
Apparently
it's
that's-
just that, okay.
Yeah, that's one tax parcel, and the balance of it is another tax parcel. That's why in negotiating the transaction with the owner, we were going to
Okay.
reserve some parking for him.
Okay, that's clearer.
So
He has an auto body use in there too.
when you were saying that, earlier that, you're proposing the loading, I guess, of
Yeah.
the animals or whatever other things need to be loaded and unloaded in the rear, you're talking about that sort of alley space between your structure and the structure to the north of you, or what are you calling the rear?
Right where Josh's cursor is right now. that would be the area that we'd have
Mr.
the
Johnson.
trucks come in.
Move your
back-
cursor, Josh. I don't see it.
I
I
can
don't
see it, it's a little light, I'm sorry
I
about
don't
that.
see. Oh,
Yeah.
that's, okay,
Thanks, Josh.
Oh,
Let's
that's the
mark that
reason.
as.
okay, so, okay.
Yeah, that would blue scare, we see that as the area where the trucks could, because it's the least visible, and, you know, we plan on doing this all, like, kind of off hours, where before we open it at 10, we'll be loaded, and the animal will be taken care of, and then, you know, it'll be open to the public, so to speak, at the 10 a.m. for the retail component.
Usually it's delivered by, before 6 a.m., 7 a.m. So that time, is officially no public will be available that time.
And where Josh highlighted previously, that's like the boundary. I'm trying to get a sense of the property boundary, because in this photo, there's like a bunch of like
Yeah,
parking spaces beneath that. Is that part of your boundary as well? Or is that a separate?
actually,
Is
that
that
is a
another
separate
parcel?
parcel, and I think it's just used for storage of vehicles right now.
Okay, but for your, like, so you wouldn't have access to that. Your boundary is like where that, essentially where that space was, that ends where you're,
It almost looks like there's a fence that runs across.
Yeah,
Right.
it does.
I believe that's actually the township boundary as well, is on that angle going towards Philadelphia.
oh, is that, okay.
Oh, we-
And is that where the loading zone, the
I think-
proposed loading zone would be?
Yes, right where Josh is marking
Okay.
the blue box.
Okay.
So I guess I'm trying to envision like just this, how the circulation's gonna work, right? So they pull in, the trucks pull in, make that right, traverse across the parking lot and then back into that, I don't know what to call that shape. I'm not great at geometry, but that that area in the back there.
Yeah, we think
That's-
that, as you can see, there's a dimension that Mike put on the plan of 96.10 feet, which the truck comes down, it could pull into where it says parking spot 16 and then back right into that area. And pull right back out the way it came.
And presumably the deliveries are happening earlier. They're really, I guess outside of employee, I don't know what the employee hours would be, but
Yeah, obviously
presumably.
there'll be somebody there to take the delivery, but realistically, both from a, let's just call it a manufacturing perspective and a retail perspective, that starts at 10 a.m.
And did you just say that the truck would pull in and it would also back out in the way that it came in?
Yeah, after it loads in, I
Loads.
could see it comes back out and go back out the same way.
Okay.
Drive
And
out.
because of the hours of delivery and operation are different, there wouldn't be any conflict with traffic? Okay,
Has to be that way, I think.
okay.
And we also, like, from a disturbance standpoint, not that we expect that anybody would really notice, we're more comfortable with it kind of being done off hours
Mhm.
because the nature of the use.
Is the user oh, sorry.
When do you have your trash picked up and things like that? I mean, I'm thinking of the bones and whatever else.
Yeah, we,
Is twice, is a company called Darling. This company called Darling, so they pick up trash twice a day, early in the morning and after hours, 8 p.m., after 8 p.m. So usually they pick up every day, every day in the morning and after 8 p.m. So there will be no trash available for the next day.
So you actually don't have any, I'm not gonna say the B word, laying around or, just leftover
No.
stuff
no,
over a period of 24 hours?
No, it's gonna be twice, it's gonna be delivery, it's gonna be 2 times a day. It will from the morning, also in the afternoon, every day. So it will be no trash available for leftover for 24 hours.
So I guess that would remediate some of the, for like ventilation out into the atmosphere.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Sorry. The 5 parking, I guess the user where you guys are reserving the 5 parking spaces, do they have, I guess on their, I guess this is one tax parcel or 2 separate tax parcels, right? Do they have parking of their own outside of the 5 that you guys would be providing them?
I think there's some available for him on site. As you can see, there's that little break in the building, plus the front of the building.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, Josh, if you can go down, you see up front.
Oh, I
has
see.
some
Okay.
parking Along Butler Pike. And then there's the interior kind of parking, and then there's still ability, I guess, where the garage is pulling in the back. But yeah, we figured those 5 spots that are closest to his building by the gate entrance.
Okay.
We just reserved, so we have some overflow.
This might be a question for Mr. Galante, and if it is, I'll wait until then, but if you know, do you know how far the structure is set back from the curb or from the property line?
From the property line, I don't know. Mike, do you know? Yeah, if you want to swear me in.
Hi, your name, please.
Michael Galante, Galante.
Swear or affirm to testify
Yes. Good evening. I'm Mike Galante. I'm the owner of MG Engineering Associates LLC. I'm the engineer that prepared the plan for this evening. The plan is based on, what we did is we took a near map aerial, and then we took tax map lines and overlaid them. So you have a pretty good location of where the property lines are. I heard, just to kind of talk about the plan a little bit, about the existing conditions. I think, I don't want to, reiterate what Mr. Shafkowitz already said, but the site, has, pretty much surrounded by industrial commercial uses, which is why we think this site is suitable for this location. It has access off of Baltimore Pike, even though it fronts on Kelly Street, which is a local road. The main road to get access to the site is Baltimore Ave, which runs east and west. Kelly Street runs north and south. One of the features that we, when designing the plan, one of the features that we took advantage of on this site is that the existing, if you look at the aerial, Josh, are you able to put the aerial on real quick? The site in its current condition is pretty much entirely impervious surface. There's a fence that runs along the frontage. That fence is actually in the right of way. The driveway currently is way oversized. It's probably about 45 feet for a drive aisle. A typical drive aisle per ordinance would be around 30 feet for two-way. So if we go back to the plan, what we did in this particular site is we wanted to provide a little bit of buffering and also pull the fence back outside of the right-of-way. So as you can see from the plan, we have that little bit of landscape buffering, plus we have the fence that comes out of the right-of-way onto the site. We also, given the fact that a typical drive aisle is about 30 feet, understanding that, obviously the board could see that there's one-way circulation for loading coming in and out. We kept the drive aisle a little bit wider for that reason. So as you look at the site, you see that the drive aisle is about 37.5 feet, which is a little bit wider, so it allows for that two-way circulation, even though we do not expect that large amount of traffic, considering that a lot of the product is special order. When, in regard to the distance, now to go back to your question, Mr. Petrell, the distance of the building to the property line is about, I think it's about 96 feet, 96.1 feet as depicted on the plan. And, one of the things that also, regardless of the setback, we do have that landscape buffering area, which wasn't there before, along with the fence, which kind of buffers the use from the surrounding commercial uses. And it also provides a good aesthetic look. And I'm a big believer in, even though it's an industrial area, you can still make it look nice and have a nice looking site, a greener site to kind of set the tone for the rest of the neighborhood.
Any other questions for this witness?
Not for him.
Thanks.
Did you have any other questions? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Yes.
cut you off.
You have one for me?
I had a question relative to how the air conditioning is going to be for it and how the fans, just to make sure ventilation
You're
itself
talking about the
is taken care
ventilation.
of.
I know in this type of use, I'm not a mechanical engineer, but the ventilation will have to be as such so that, any odors would be mitigated through any kind of HVAC system that would help, like an air scrubber to help mitigate any odors. However, I think the applicant did mention that they would be picking up the product, the trash product, I guess the byproduct, twice a day. So that would also mitigate any, if odors are what you're concerned about, that would help mitigate any odors that would result from the use. Is that good?
And the temperature control for that in the summertime, I'm imagining that could be quite hot.
The HVAC system would have to be sized adequately for this type of use. That would all get handled with the building permit when they submit to L&I. And that could be something that, obviously, when it gets submitted and when the owner's operational, they're going to have to keep the temperature at a level that is, the workers are able to work in, number one, and also that when you get a hot product like that, that has that type of odor that you may be concerned about, they're going to want to keep it at a lower temperature, not to, you know, upset the neighborhood.
I have a question. I'm not sure who would be best to answer it, but is there any, was there any planning done for, what if you decide to grow or bring more animals in than one at a time or as the orders come? Is that reflective in the plans that you have here, or is that a possibility? I know you would have to probably come back in and do some type of new permit, but I just wonder if that's incorporated.
It will not be reflect anything because we have place in for further west Pennsylvania. We have livestock there. We have one of my partner has I think almost 6 acre land to have. How many?
So, sir,
64 acre
can we-
land.
Sorry, sir, can we get your name, because you've answered a few questions from the audience? Okay, so guys, for future, everyone in the audience, please do not speak unless you are answering a question or you're giving public comment, because while, as the court reporter stated, your comments, even though they might have been helpful previously, did not make it in the record. So let's have you come up, give your name, and that way.
Thank you for.
Great.
Abdul Rashid,
Spell your last name.
ABRASHED.
Please raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give
Yes.
And I forget what the question is now.
So we have 64 acre land in
Western Pennsylvania.
Alveston, Pennsylvania. So we have livestock there. So basically, like we explained, that it will be based on pre-water. So we're not taking any extra water by like every day, like 5, 6, or 10. Is based on our capacity. We'll bring the cows the next day or any animals for following days. So we're not taking any extra load, which is not taking from this place.
What is the
Understood.
average that you would take? What is the usual orders that you have to fill or you're expecting to fill?
For poultry, I mean, usually we are not sure, like maybe based on the people order, but any other big animals, maybe 1 or 2 is 2 in a day, because people doesn't like big cows or big goats. People doesn't take more than 1 or 2 a day. And the poultry usually is daily basis. It's like a retail. So it's like maybe 100, 300, 400 pieces, because each people we usually take 10, 20 pieces chicken each order. So like maybe we're gonna have 15, 20 or 30 orders a day for chicken, but the goat usually or cow usually like once in a day or twice a day, something like that. So it will be not extra load from our place.
If we're lucky.
And that's what I was thinking, if your business were to grow, and maybe you had to bring in 4 cows and 5 goats, because it's a certain time of the year and, people are preparing meals for family because of whatever the occasion or holiday. Is there a chance that you're,
I'm sorry.
So-
It can be delivered twice a day, the cows, or if we need it.
So occasional holiday
Yes.
occasional holiday, like I said, we have the place outside of, farther away from the Pennsylvania. If it's like 50, 20s, they can go there and they do their own slaughtering there.
so you
But-
definitely have a limit? is what
Yeah,
you're
we
saying.
have the land for the specific
A limit. of
limit.
how
We
many.
have limit. We have limit because of the employee, because of our capacity. So maybe 1 max or 2 in a day, based on our limit. It's not gonna be high amount of volume every day for the big, especially big cows or goats.
One question I have is about the bodily fluids that have to be taken care of. How are they flushed out or
For, what is,
Fluids?
the blood and guts?
you have done some of it?
No, it's gonna be the spatial drain to be there, and have a drain, have the trap, and the trap will collect all this blood. So that pretty much the work, that's how it work.
And that gets,
The Darling, the company, they took the blood
Right.
every day, because from that is not gonna go to public drainage. It will have our special drain. And like I said, when you have the building permit, we have the health department, they will come and they'll inspect. And like I said, when the delivery come in for the trash, they will take their trash for every day.
Any other questions? Is there anyone from the public that has a comment or on this application? Seeing none.
Would you like to say?
I just wanted to say thank you for listening to the application. And I just wanted to remind the board, at one point, I think the applicant had come in looking to do this use at a different site and got very good advice from this board about seeing if we could find something more suitable. And we hope, and we believe that the site that we presented tonight would be suitable for what's being proposed. So thank you for taking the time to review it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, probably.
We're going to take a break for executive session. We'll be right back. Thank you.
We're going off the record at 8 o'clock. To go over a legal issue with the proposed relief, and I'll turn it back over to the chair.
Okay. All right. Did we do public comment already? I'm sorry.
I
just-
asked for public comment and there were
And there
no
was none.
hands.
Okay, all right, I wanted to make sure. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve with the following conditions: that we keep the retail space limited to 800 square feet. And I, again, like to make the motion to approve it. Do I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, your application has been approved. You'll get a notice within 45 days.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Alex,
you.
Good
Nice
seeing
seeing you, David.
And good luck.
Okay.
All right, yeah.
Good luck. All right, we're going to move
See
on
you, man.
to 2-1 of 25, Miguel Angel Uzo. I'm sorry if I mispronounced. 423 and 425 Kent Road, Upper Darby. Parcel ID is there. It's an R3 residential district. The application is applying for a variance from section 558A to permit an athletic field in the R3 district. B, a variance from section 551A B to permit a recreational use within 5 feet of the property line. And C, a variance from 55039C to permit a pole height of 16 feet and a fence height of 12 feet where 6 feet is permitted.
I'm going to mark for the
Hello,
record
guys.
this evening.
Sorry, when I'm not speaking 100% English, sorry, when so
So
I'm
let,
not-
let, let me mark a few exhibits first, and then we'll swear you in and let you speak. So give me a second, please. For the record this evening, Zoning Hearing Board 1 will be a copy of the application packet. Zoning Hearing Board 2 will be a copy of the notice and the photos. Zoning Hearing Board 3 will be a copy of the proof of publication. And let's have you sworn in.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that you're about to?
Yes,
And can I have your name, please?
Miguel Ucho.
So I know you said that in the beginning that might be a little difficult, but let's try your best for this board, and they have reviewed your application.
Okay. When, sorry, guys, I'm not understand 100% English. When it's my first time coming here, so when I'm gonna explain you guys when exactly you want. When I'm coming here for a permit, I asked to Joshua. I call my architect. My architect do everything, but I'm coming here for keep this place for play, whole family and there. So my uncle is in a wheelchairs. I'm no it's possible going to different places. For this question, I'm making in a backyard one place for aqua volley.
So you added a volleyball court to the backyard of the property, correct?
Yes, aqua volley.
Okay. And after the fact, you became aware that you needed zoning relief, which is why you submitted the application?
Oh, sorry about that for that. So
So before I ask another question, is anyone requesting party status on this application? Okay, so we have two neighbors that have requested party status. Let's have you come up and get your name and address.
My name is Tyir Brown,
Can you spell your first name for me, please?
Tyir. I live in 421 Kent Road, Abu Dhabi, PA.
So, Mr. Brown, can I correctly presume that you live next to the property?
Yes,
And you, even though you're next door to the property, can the board presume that you are opposed to this application?
yes.
Okay. So you'll be given an opportunity to tell the board why. You'll be able to, sorry, for the board record, I recommend that we grant him party status as he is next door. You'll be able to present your own evidence. You'll be able to take an appeal from court if you don't agree with this decision. But purpose of me calling you up right now was just to see who is requesting party status. You'll be given another time to speak. I will call you shortly after we finish going through the applicant's case, and you'll be given an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant as well. So if you can just take a seat, and then I'll call you shortly. And ma'am, you also, why don't you come up to the podium?
I think I spoke prematurely, so for me, I'm not a direct neighbor, but I live in the neighborhood, so I would probably be speaking in public comment.
Okay, but can we, because you just spoke, can we just get your name?
Yes, my name is Michelle Schofield, Schofield.
Great, and there will be an opportunity for public comment later on.
Okay.
Those to come.
And sir, did you bring anyone with you this evening?
it's my uncle right there, my wife right there.
And so you did not bring anyone that prepared the application, there were some exhibits that were done from Lund Build Architecture and Construction. You do not have a representative from that company here, do you?
No, this one I told you guys, so it's my first time, I don't know, so this.
So seeing that you have a neighbor opposed and that English is not your first language where it might be difficult, perhaps you might want to consider possibly continuing this case for a month and bringing back a representative.
Sure.
So that way we can better hear about this project, and that way your neighbor could also ask further questions and get answers in order to allow this board to proceed. So seeing with your agreement on that, we're going to continue this hearing to,
Ask the person that's registered. Ask the other person if she's able to come.
sir, are you able to come back as well to next month's hearing,
March 25th.
March 25th? I understand that. So this case is a little unique because the structure was completed and then afterward there was a notice of violation which triggered the zoning application. So this is the venue for the zoning hearing board to determine if if he will be entitled to the relief, which the applicant was able to submit the zoning application in response to getting that. So I understand your frustration that this has been taking a long time. But as the applicant is able to move forward to next month's hearing to be able to help explain what he's doing, I think the board's going to be inclined to allow the continuance with the understanding that he needs to bring some further witnesses with him in order to answer both the board's questions and your questions as a immediate next door neighbor that is aggrieved by this application. And I understand that the status quo will be maintained at that time, but I think in order to have a better, more proactive hearing, as this is a mini trial, I think that's the best case for this board. So I'm sorry that we're not able to proceed this evening. So
Could I ask a question of just the zoning officer for a second regarding the potential continuance? I just want to be clear on what the status quo actually is. Right now, there's active notice of violation on, I guess, this use or whatever's going on?
Yes, I believe there was a violation letter that was written.
Okay, so I guess the status quo right now is that this is in violation of the code. This is not an approved use. Like between now and any potential continuance, it's not something that's being approved in that time. It's actively a violation.
That's correct, and it shouldn't be used as such until after there's a decision from the zoning hearing board.
And he cannot use the court for the volleyball while it's waiting.
That would be my understanding, but I'd actually defer to the solicitor on that one.
I would defer to the zoning officer in terms, and the township solicitor in terms of how they would enforce that during the course of a appeal. Someone, sir, will get back to you after the hearing. If you could give your email address, which we don't want to do on the record, to the zoning officer, someone can provide that answer to you.
And he's required to bring somebody that can speak English.
Yes, and also
Architect.
someone that prepared the plans should be here as well. So with that, we will continue this hearing to March 25th at 7 p.m. in this room.
Okay, thank you.
Can the applicant also email us in writing, just in agreeing to waive the MPC time requirements as well for next month?
Okay,
Thanks.
Great. We'll see you next month, sir.
thanks.
Okay, moving on to 2 of 25, Randall T. Is it pronounced Roy? Ryu. Okay, 3218 Garrett Road in Drexel Hill. Parcel ID number is there, and it's in the R1 Residential District. Seeking a variance from Section 550-40B1 to permit an accessory structure in the front yard setback. Hello.
And I'm going to mark for the record a few items. Exhibit 1 will be a copy of the application packet. Exhibit 2 will be a copy of the notice and the photos of those notice. Exhibit 3 will be a copy of the proof of publication. And sir, let's have you sworn in.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that your last name is the truth?
I do.
Your name one more time, please.
Randall Reeves.
So sir, obviously I'm sorry.
No.
Don't fight over me.
You're here for a requesting a variance to permit an accessory structure in the front yard setback. Why don't you explain to the board what it is that you're proposing to do?
Sure. Briefly, I just made a two-sentence statement here for, we come to you today to request a variance for the building of a small accessory structure in the front yard setback of our historic home, Thornfield, the Thomas Garrett House, at 3218 Garrett Road in Drexel Hill. Before I detail the location, purpose, and structure itself, I'd like to give a quick background on the reason we're here today.
If you're reading, can you just slow down and spell?
Certainly, I
definitely.
apologize for that.
Definitely, I don't know if the microphone is still on, but there should be a green button.
It's on.
Testing, testing. It's on, it was me.
If you can just speak up so that way the court reporter and anyone else here, sorry, that's a good segue. Is anyone requesting party status on this application? Okay, seeing none. Go ahead with your prepared statement, just
Certainly.
slowly for the court reporter.
I've been in these situations. I know what it's like on that side. Before I detail the location, purpose, and structure itself, I'd like to give a quick background on the reason we're here today. However, I'm not sure how you'd like to proceed with this, so I'll defer to you on how we should go forward.
Why don't you tell us about the purpose of the structure and what you're doing with it?
Okay. It is an accessory structure that is between our home and the bank property on the east side. I do believe you have the diagrams and drawings and land survey and all the good information that you need to make those decisions. Essentially, it is a hospice for our chicken that appeared in our yard one day. And after a fox attack, she needed a safe structure. So as we were bringing her back to health over the course of a month inside the house, I was building a structure with my amateur carpentry skills on the outside to establish a safe place for her to live out her best life. And it's a few feet in front of the house, but because of the unique location of the house, that looked like the best location for it, given the
So the
corner lot.
So the structure is approximately 20 by 8?
Correct. There's 8 by 8 for the structure itself, and then there's a screened in run that is 8 by 12.
And it goes slightly over the front of the front yard, the front of where the front wall is, which is why that you're seeking zoning relief, correct?
Correct. There's a big tree right in the way that would prevent it from going back a few feet.
So that I was going to ask that question. So that tree that is more towards the center of the house is in the way, and why you had to locate that structure in front of the tree?
Exactly.
And I'm assuming, but correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't want to put it in the rear because that's where the driveway and garage is?
Correct.
And how many chickens, or is it just the one?
Henrietta.
Is there any plans to have any more chickens?
Not at this time. In fact, afterwards, it may just become a tool shed for her garden.
I don't have any other questions, board members?
Sorry, just to clarify for the record, is this structure is in existence or proposed?
It is. Jamie McLaughlin came by one day to say, as I was putting in the stakes, that I should apply for a permit and that it shouldn't be an issue. I did and continued building and then got the notice that it was in violation. And that's why I'm here today with the variance request.
What would you say is the hardship?
Hardship as in,
Why you should be granted the variance?
oh, because there was no other reasonable location on the lot to put it. It's in a position where it's between our home and a very busy, noisy bank, and it's not in view of, I could read, basically, we designed it to blend seamlessly with the house as it's going to be restored, and it is our belief that all of this allows the coop to be integrated very easily into the current landscape, as it's a unique corner position of the house and carriage house on Garage and Garrett Road and Maple. It just seems like when we looked across the property, it was the safest place. There is a geothermal well in the back. We didn't want to put it on top of that. The trees are centuries old, and there are different areas. We don't want to destruct that because of the historic nature of the property. And we didn't want to put it in the front yard for obvious reasons. But it's on the side just enough where it's not an obstruction.
Could the size have been reduced to allow it to fit?
No, actually, no, could not. Not for safe habitation and not for use later on.
Okay, so, looking at the plans that you submitted and, the aerial as well, looking at the size of the structure, I know you said that, this was what you considered the best location because, putting it in the back, well, I know it's not technically the back of the house, but,
It's hard to tell.
yeah. Not on the Garrett, Road facing side, like towards your shed or the, carriage house and the driveway. Why wouldn't it be able to be in that location? Like,
In that open area on the south?
not in the open area on the south, but specifically next to an existing structure like your carriage house.
Oh, there's no room there. There's the offset of the garage is like a foot from the fence. And on the other sides, there are more trees and a groundhog hole that we do not want to disrupt.
I guess my my initial assessment is in its current location, it is quite visible from all the streets. So that, like the idea of putting it in a location that would not be, what's the word? God, I'm blanking on the word. Well, yeah, just plainly as visible. Specifically, since you have so much property, I guess I'm struggling to understand what the hardship is, why this specific like location, when you have so much land, was chosen, and why the board should grant a variance for this specific location.
Sure, we didn't want to disrupt the visual aesthetics of historic home in the backyard or the front yard directly, because that's the main approaches from guests. That area of the property is the least visible of the entire property. And the way it's
The
built.
the Garrett side
Yes,
is the least visible. The Garrett Road's the busy street.
yes, it is. Oh, I think my wife would like to
Sorry.
join in. No, that's fine.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth?
Yes,
Can I have your name?
Nicole Ryu.
And Nicole, before you go on, why don't we focus on the question that one of our board members just asked on the fact that this is a corner lot between Garrett and Maple, and then circling back on that, whether the chicken coop is visible on, from Garrett.
Okay, so the coop is actually located in an area that's right in front of a 35 by 35-foot garden. I also have a garden in the back of the house. So the coop would be located either on top of a garden or directly in the back of the house. The other two sides of the property have residential homes. The bank is no longer open. It has a working ATM, and that is about it. And it's located far enough away from everybody that is living in the area that she should never be disruptive. The tree, obviously, as Randy had mentioned, is in the way for it to be slid back a little bit further. The other issue is the coop actually looks like a home. It has working windows. It has a Dutch door that my husband handmade from a tree that actually was felled in the property. It was hand stained. It's stained with no polyurethane. And
Do
the
you have
coop,
any
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Do you have any pictures showing what it looks like?
We don't have any printed off, however, we do have pictures.
While the board might be able to see them, they're not gonna be able to mark them as exhibits and keep them for the record unless they email the zoning officer.
Yeah, if you want to, in the past, if you can email it to me after you show the board, I'll forward it to our solicitor's office and we can mark them that way.
Nice.
I know I definitely have a picture.
Is there a possibility that there could be some other or additional buffering or?
Well, the way it's going to
Camera-
be landscaped is I'm putting a climbing rose that's going to go completely up and over the one side of the coop. It's going to hide it completely. And then the front is going to be landscaped with herbs that are edible for her. She is a very loved chicken.
And so what's the timeline for the rose vine to be established to grow to that point?
And actually, climbing roses will climb for the year.
But not to
Right.
the, not to the extent that we're talking to.
It will climb up that side. So this is what the coop actually looks like.
And just for the record, with the understanding that after the hearing, you're gonna email the
I'll send
zoning
them to Joshua.
officer these pictures. We'll mark these collectively as A1, which will be a series of pictures that the applicant is showing the board.
And I can take them from multiple angles.
Could you recheck the measurements that you've used here? Because
'Cause
it looks, it says 8 foot by 8 foot.
8 foot by 8 foot for the main structure and then 8 foot by 12 foot for the run. So it's a
I know,
total
but
of
when you
8.
see the drawings that you have, it's not consistent.
How do you mean?
The one looks to be square, but looks like it's 2 by 3 or 2 by 2.
Can you bring that up?
You're referring to the Google aerial, sorry.
No.
Talking about, yeah,
That,
yeah.
you know,
What do you,
so we're, if, Josh.
Joshua's
Yeah,
hunting it down.
I was like, I think we're done with the area. Never mind.
Thought it was simpler than
I
that.
think that's the exhibit that board member is referring to, that the 8 by 8 part looks more rectangular than square.
Yeah, that would be
8 by 12.
artist error.
My husband kind of just stuck it on there as opposed to making it proportional to the house. So the house is about 40 by, what do you, about 60?
It's about 60 by 50.
Yeah, something like that. So the other part of the coop is that our home was a farm. It was a farm for centuries.
No.
It's only been in the second half of the 20th century that it's actually become more residential. So it actually blends well with a house that is being completely renovated, top to bottom, from roof to basement. The stucco is going to be eventually removed and the house is going to be repointed. So it actually blends perfectly.
I have a zoning code question for the zoning officer. The relief is for to permit an accessory structure. Hypothetically, if this variance was approved, is that specific to the chicken coop use, or if it's approved as an accessory structure,
it's 2 structures.
it could be,
Could be a shed afterwards.
or, but they wouldn't have to come back here for like a subsequent approval if they wanted to.
If the use is changing, if they go to a shed, then they won't come back. But if the dimensions of that change.
Sure, yeah.
they would have to
Yeah, if it ever needed an expansion that was going to create, more of a nonconformity into that front yard setback, then they would have to come back.
If anything, it would get smaller.
Absolutely, yeah. It's mostly because we just wanted to give her space. She has a swing set. She is a very loved chicken.
You're welcome to visit.
Which is the one that's for the chicken? The smaller?
Both of them. So one is her home. It's where she goes to bed. It's where she has nesting boxes. And one is, think of it like her yard. It's out her back door. So we have an automatic door that opens and closes when sunrise and sundown. And she goes out and she eats and she plays with the dirt and she dust bathes. Because chickens actually need to dust bathe to remove any possibility of bugs.
So she has access to your garden area?
She will. Mm-hmm.
But it's all enclosed.
Mm-hmm.
There's doors.
When I first saw it going up, I thought possibly it was a ticket booth
Oh, my goodness.
that you were arranging for the house.
I grew up in Maine, so a lot of the design that I apply is very colonial, and same in this area. It seems to fit very well with the home. So
Mhm.
it's- Yes.
One final question. And this is a little bit of a backtrack, but I'm just curious if you could elaborate more. So you mentioned earlier when initially you were putting down the stakes for this, that you were notified that you would need to go through a permitting process, but then you continued to build the structure anyways. What was your reasoning to not double check before continuing construction and waiting until you got to basically the violation to stop?
Sure. When I was talking to Mr. McLaughlin, I had asked him what he thought I should do for the next steps, and he said that I don't see any problems with this. You just need to apply to make sure it's official and that they know what you're doing. And when I did that, it was about a month, I think, before the notice came that it was in violation.
So you applied for the building permit, and it was, of course, the building permit that it was discovered that you had a zoning issue?
Correct.
Is that stated accurately?
Yep, that would be accurate to how the system was at this time.
And how long ago did you start building
I
this?
think that was October.
Yeah, it was October. Yeah, she was attacked at the end of September.
And she wandered onto your property?
She just
She just appeared. She ended up in one of our bushes. I have raspberry bushes. And we found her living under my raspberry bushes. And she was foraging, and she was roosting in a tree that was on the property. And our intention was to kind of allow her to roost in that tree until we would get approval. And then she had a puncture wound in her back that was about this deep that actually ended up nearly puncturing her lung. So she was on antibiotics and anti-inflammatories for 3 weeks and living in my dining room.
And if it matters, with vet bills and construction, we are $9,000 into this burden. But
She's
that's
loved.
not that important.
She is very loved.
As they can be.
Is there any more questions from the board? Is there any public comment?
Yes, ma'am. Why don't you come up, and I know you just gave us your name for the last application, but let's get your name again and your address for the record.
Hi, my name is Michelle Schofield. I'm a resident here in Upper Darby Township, and when I saw this on the agenda, hello, everyone. When I saw this on the agenda, I was actually perplexed about what an accessory structure is. And the fact that it was just like a broad comment. And I know this property to be a historical property, and it's also one of the properties on our Underground Railroad tour. So and when I drove past, I was just really perplexed as to why
I can understand that.
you wanted to put something on the property. And listening to your testimony tonight, it's a temporary.
Yeah, like I said, it would eventually become
And the fact that with your property being a historical property, you've been, in the zoning board hearings over the years because it is a historical property. So you're familiar with the procedures and what it takes to protect the integrity of that property. And I understand now, after I looked it up, that it's a residential property. However, it is still on the historical site. So I'm just really confused, and I would like for Upper Darby, this board, to consider the integrity of our township. When I listen to the hearings, and this is why I'm here today, because when I'm home, I can't make a comment, that I'm just going to stay factual. It's one of our historical sites that's on the Underground Railroad. And I think for aesthetic purposes, and because the public can view it, that I don't really think that they should be allowed to put a temporary structure in for an animal that wandered onto their property. I think that in care of the property, and I understand I'm an animal lover, I'm also a farmer, so I understand that part, but I think the proper place for that would be a haven, or to maybe take him to another farm that's locally in the area. I know there's another place here in Drexel Hill that actually has chickens, and maybe you would want to add that to that home.
Well, but,
Yes.
so actually, let her finish with her comment first, and
Yeah,
then-
so that's my objection to this variance being permitted. And although there is a now vacant structure or business that's no longer there, but that has nothing to do with future businesses that would be there. Here in Upper Darby, we want to attract people, and the fact that that's a historical site, and I'm just going to keep going back to that, is my objection to this variance and a permit being granted.
Thank you, ma'am. So perhaps question of clarification for you, zoning officer, if we could just, if, prior to getting this request for a variance for the accessory structure being the front yard, were they required to go through any historic review board? The ordinance require that, or no?
At this time, we do not have a historic ordinance.
Okay. It's a state historical, not, okay.
And the fact that you started the structure without getting a permit, that's another thing, after listening to testimony, that really bothers me, because again, they're not strangers to the Upper Darby Township codes, zoning, council. So you're only actually here because you got caught. And the fact that we don't have a historical commission right now, I think this should be continued. I think that it should not be granted until we actually get one, because they would actually have something else to say with that, because the land has to be preserved for public viewing in the future.
I'm
So-
Vice President of the Board of the
Sorry,
Swedish Cabinet.
did anyone else have any public comment? Okay. So seeing none, now would be an opportunity for you to give us your closing remarks on the case. And then the board may want to go into exec session to discuss.
So to respond to her questions, I absolutely understand the historic nature of the home. Being that the home is certified through the state rather than through the US government, we don't necessarily have any regulations as to how the house can be remodeled, changed, preserved, whatnot. That being said, what we're doing in the house is keeping with the historic nature of the house. All of the floors are actually being hand milled by my husband. All of the rooms are being taken back from the odd renovations that have happened in the house and are coming back to the colonial style of the house. The windows are not being replaced, though we would not need a zoning ordinance to replace the windows and put vinyl in. They're actually being refinished. So they're being rebuilt with weights and rope, and they open and close. The way the coop is built is integral to the quality of what the property originally was. The property was an orchard and a farm. It housed animals, it housed apple trees, it housed a garden, and that is the integrity of the current property. We actually feel like we're taking it back further into the integrity of the property. When Randy actually purchased it, the entire front yard was covered in English ivy. It was overgrown. The entire side yard was covered in brush. And to be frank, the township allowed that to happen because it's a private home, and that's just the nature of the way it being a private home needs to be. So really the way I feel is that we've actually taken it way further back into what the house was originally supposed to be, which was a family home, and it's a community home. It will not be open to the public. because we live there. It's where we spend our days. But the coop itself is reflective of the way the house is currently built and the way it currently appears, though eventually it will be, the house will be remodeled. There will be a lot of outdoor work that will happen. Yes, it is.
When did you acquire the property?
2014.
So the other thing is that because we have not done outdoor work, we have gotten zoning permits for the structural work.
Yes, everything for interior.
But we haven't done any outdoor accessory structures or any outdoor work that would require a zoning permit.
Does the board have any other questions before we go into exec session?
No, I don't.
So we're going to go into exec session at 8:40. We are back on the record at 8:52 after an exec session to go over some of the requested relief. The board has a question for the applicants. Would you be okay with agreeing to continue the hearing to March 25th? And the board would have a vote that evening and be able to issue a decision 45 days, a written decision 45 days from that date, because the board would like information from you in order to supplement the record regarding the property's historic nature and whatever registries that the property currently has with the state of Pennsylvania.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to, with the agreement by the applicants that they're going to agree that the board will have 45 days to issue a decision from the March 25th meeting, which a vote will occur that evening. In the interim, you're going to submit to the zoning hearing board the information you have of the historic nature of the property, which then will be circulated to the zoning hearing board. So there will be no vote this evening on this property, and it will be continued.
Should Joshua be our liaison for?
Yes, please send everything to Josh, who will circulate to the solicitor and the zoning hearing board. And our woman that spoke, is she still here? Did she hear that? Okay. I want to make sure you heard that. Okay. And ma'am, if you had anything else, you can submit that to the zoning officer as well.
In regards to the material, what exactly are you looking for?
Confirmation is of a historic nature and any rules and regulations regarding changes of uses of the property.
Okay, and we do have one of the blue signs out front too, so just take a picture of it.
Whatever, yes, whatever you have sent to Josh, will circulate to us.
Alrighty,
Okay, so that will conclude this matter this evening.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 2-3 of 25. Lansdowne Tobacco Outlet Corp. is the applicant, 1019 Westchester LLC is the owner, 63 North Union Avenue in Lansdowne, PA. Parcel ID numbers there, and it's in a C4 Commercial Industrial District, applying for a special exception pursuant to Section 55024C3A to permit a smoke shop in the C4 district.
And we're going to mark for the record this evening, zoning hearing board 1 will be a copy of the application packet. Zoning hearing board 2 will be a copy of the notice with photos of the notice. And zoning hearing board 3 will be a copy of the proof of publication. And counsel, if you can introduce yourself for the record.
Good evening. My name is John McBlain. My Supreme Court ID number is 65287. I'm here on behalf of the applicant.
And is anyone requesting party status on this matter? Okay, seeing none, then sir, as you heard the prior application with counsel with no party status, we'd be okay to do an offer of proof.
Sure, we can do that. May I first publish our exhibits to the board this evening?
That would be great. Let's call them applicant, whatever they're numbered. So we'll go A with whatever numbers that they are.
Yes.
A1 through A4. Thank you.
Once again, good evening. We've published the applicant's exhibits. I would also note that the first 3 photos aren't marked as an exhibit, but they are the photos of the notice of tonight's hearing that were posted about 2 weeks ago now, I guess, at the property the day after we received them from the office. The proposed user of the property is the Lansdowne Tobacco Outlet Corporation. We have the principals here. We have Mr. Farik Ali, can answer any questions, and he'll confirm at the end that my offer of proof was true and correct. This is regarding the property at 63 North Union Avenue in Upper Darby. The owner of the property is 1019 Westchester LLC. They are leasing the property to Lansdowne Tobacco Outlet Corporation. Both the owner and the tenant are applicants here this evening. Exhibit A1 is the deed to the property. Our clients purchased it in December of 2014. And there actually is a series of properties. The board may be familiar. This is, I still call it the old Acme on Union Avenue. It's the DG Market. There are a couple other buildings that were there going down to, and not including the post office there. So you have kind of an idea. This is located at the corner of Union, and it's Pembroke to the right and Stewart to the left. The location of where the proposed store would be is if you're looking at the DG Market, which is the old Acme, the largest store that is there. It is at the front left portion of the property. Lansdowne Tobacco is a registered business with the Pennsylvania Department of State, and we've provided you with a copy of that certification, the articles of incorporation as Exhibit 2. They have a sales tax license with the state of Pennsylvania, and that's been marked as Exhibit A3. And Exhibit A4 is their tobacco products license from the state of Pennsylvania. They've gone through the application process and know the rules for the sale of tobacco in Pennsylvania. There at the property itself, there is a large parking lot that was associated again with the former Acme and the other buildings that are there. There is more than sufficient parking for this use. And anybody that's ever been by there knows that lot really never gets filled up. So there's more than sufficient off-street parking for the uses that are currently there and for this proposed use. They want to operate a convenience store and a tobacco and smoke sales shop. As this board knows, the township, I guess within the past 6 months, adopted new ordinances regulating smoke shops. And in the C4 commercial district, smoke shops are permitted as a special exception, which means we are permitted to do it as long as we can meet certain conditions that have been newly set forth there. They'll be selling a mix of products, convenience store type products such as beverages. No alcohol, no alcoholic beverages will be sold here. Nor will there be alcoholic beverages permitted on the property. In other words, somebody can't come in with one and drink it. But typical non-alcoholic beverages of soda, milk, juices, energy drinks, that type of thing would be sold there. Some prepackaged food, crackers, those types of things, but no food products would be prepared at the site. No fresh foods or anything like that would be sold at the site. And then the remainder of the products would be the tobacco type products, cigars, and associated smoke products. There will be no drugs or drugs paraphernalia that would be permitted or sold at the property. The store is 1,800 square feet. It is on the first floor. There's one bathroom for this store. There are 2 exits as are required by the codes. There would be one ingress and egress entrance that would be used by the public, and the other would be for the staff. There is a basement, but they are not using the basement of the property. The building is sprinklered for fire protection. There would typically be 1 to 2 employees there at any one time. And then in regards to the very specific special exception issues that Upper Darby has now built in to the ordinance, their hours would be between no earlier than 10 a.m. and no later than 9 o'clock p.m. in accordance with the requirements of the special exception. As I indicated, there would be no alcoholic beverages sold.
Can you say the hours of operation again?
I'm sorry, yes, I kind of did that backwards.
That's why I wanted to confirm.
Your ordinance prohibits the store being open from 9 o'clock p.m. to 10 o'clock a.m. That's the way it's written. We will abide by that. So They haven't set the store hours, but certainly it would open no earlier than 10 o'clock a.m. and close no later than 9 o'clock p.m. in accordance with the requirements of the ordinance. The customers would not be allowed to use any of the products in the store. In other words, there won't be any kind of smoking lounge or lounge to use the products. They would have to, anything that would be bought in the store must be taken out to be consumed or used. If this board would require any screening or buffering from the residential areas, we would abide by that. It is a residential zone across the street, across Pembroke and Upper Darby. This is on the borderline of Lansdowne is across the street on the one side, but Upper Darby continues across Pembroke there. There's Danny's Corner Tavern that's there, and there are some residential, but we would abide by any of the buffering requirements that the office may have for this.
So
we are pretty set back.
I just want to clarify that.
Sure.
So under the ordinance, and the zoning officer can correct me if I'm wrong, one of the smoke shop A3 specific criteria states, where located on a parcel within 300 feet of a residentially zoned property or institutional use, the smoke shop must include a planted buffer, privacy fence, and/or other sound or visual barrier adequate to screen adjacent residential properties from any activities on the premises to the satisfaction of the zoning hearing board. So that, I guess, are you within 300 feet of a residentially zoned property or institutional use?
We are within 300 feet of a residential zone. Although, like I said, across the street, if you're familiar, Danny's Corner Tavern kind of runs from Union about a half a block down. I think it's just past our property. So it is a residential zone across the street, but there aren't residences across the street. I don't think it applies to the borough of Lansdowne. There are a couple of residential properties across the street, not directly in front of where we are. But again, there is a pretty good separation here because of the parking lot. It's set back pretty far from both Pembroke and Union Avenue.
So above Danny's, the tavern there, isn't that a duplex or apartment right above it?
Madam Chair, that may be. And like I said, it certainly is zoned a residential area. That's why I said we would agree with whatever the buffering requirements would be for this. Yeah, there's not typically a set of duplexes or rows, but it is a residential zone across the street. There are further up Pembroke, I know there are houses that are there, so we would certainly comply. We would not sell any tobacco products to anyone under 21 years of age. In fact, no one under 21 years of age would be permitted in the store. We will submit professional elevations and floor plans if we are able to submit a business permit application, if we receive special exception approval from the board. That would, those drawings would, we would comply and submit those required drawings to the office.
So you're asking to defer the requirement of submitting professional elevations and floor plans into a building permit, even though it's a condition of the, or even though it's a requirement of the special exception criteria?
I think it reads, I don't have the statute right in front of me, but I think it reads that,
Sorry.
that it's,
You're correct.
upon the
During
submission of the building permit application.
You're correct there. I was looking at the different section as trying to check them off in my head as you're going through them.
We would permit spot checks from the township staff to ensure compliance with all the rules. Township staff would be, invited to inspect at any time. And we certainly understand that violations of the special exception requirement or any other federal or state law could result in the loss of the smoke shop's use and occupancy permit and the suspension of the special exception status. My clients intend to follow the rules and certainly not let that happen. There are those I think are the, under the special exception specific requirements for smoke shops. Those are all of the conditions that we would need to agree to or prove to you. I wanted to touch base and make sure we would be able to fulfill, I think, the other conditions or the other standards for special exception in your ordinance generally for special exceptions. The first is typically, is it in accordance with the comprehensive plan and the other zoning requirements or the intent of that zoning district? I think if you read the intent of the C4 district, this fits in. And I think most specifically because the township just recently adopted these new rules for smoke shops and put those specific special exception requirements in, I think we've shown that we do meet those and that intent. We want to touch base on some other things just to show that it would not affect the neighborhood in a negative way. In regards to public and private schools, we don't have any public and private schools that are close to that. Penwood High School is probably, I guess, the closest, which is many, many blocks away over in Lansdowne. And then in terms of a private school, the charter school at the old former St. Philomene is at the corner of Baltimore and Lansdowne, or just up from that.
So no one's closer than 1,000 feet.
What's that?
No, so I just would, so.
I don't
each-
believe any of those are closer than 1,000 feet. I mean,
Okay.
I think the board kind of has a pretty good idea where those properties are, and it's at least a half a mile to the charter school, and like they said, the Penwood school's not anywhere close to
I
there.
wanted to just ask that specifically because that's the way it's in the ordinance.
Okay. There are no other similar stores like this in the area. I mean, there's not a proliferation in this particular area of smoke shop stores. I know that certainly smoke shops are something that's a hot issue nowadays in zoning, and we want to, governing authorities want to make sure there's not a proliferation of them. There's not located in this area. In fact, in this particular shopping center, after the post office, you have vacant buildings that are part of it. You have a day rehabilitation center that's kind of in the building that's set back, and then you have the DG Market. So this convenience store and smoke shop would be in addition to a center that quite honestly right now is a little bit vacant and a little bit in need of some business and commerce that would be there. Our clients would indicate that they operate at least a dozen or more similar smoke shops in areas in Pennsylvania, both in small towns and in the city of Philadelphia, as well as in New Jersey. And they would testify and they will confirm that they have never had a police incident at any of their stores. They've never had any criminal issues in any of the stores that they run. They've never been cited by any local government for violations of any types of ordinances or regulations. And they have never had an issue with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania or the state of New Jersey in regards to the rules such as selling tobacco to minors. They have a very clean record and they run a tight operation. They would not make any changes to the outside of the store. I think that the owner has made some improvements there in terms of just the facade out there. If you actually go on to Google Earth, what you'd see is for some point in time, these stores were boarded up. There was plywood across there. So I chose not to sort of grab that Google Earth and show you that because it's not a very attractive thing. But since that time, the plywood's come down, the facade improvements have been made. It's a nice neutral look. There's nothing ostentatious about it. And then they would make, there would be no structural issues in terms of what they need to do inside. They would just simply, put in shelves and that type of thing for their products. But there's no plan for, the store's not going to be subdivided or anything like that, or structural changes that are made. In terms of customers, they would testify that typically you might have 2 or 3 customers at a time in the store. And at some points of the day, you wouldn't have customers, but rarely, if ever, does it exceed 3 customers at a time. As I indicated earlier on, there's a very large parking lot that will accommodate the customers. There's no need for any of the customers to park on the street here.
So just to clarify, just
Mhm.
the terms of the ordinance, so there will be at least one off-street parking space required for each 200 feet of gross floor area. You'll be able to comply with that?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, and I think, Mr. Chase, I don't think there was any issue regarding the parking at this lot. I know I'm repeating myself, but this is an immense parking lot for the uses that are there now. I mean, it was formerly for the Acme, and there's plenty of parking here.
And I'm just trying to go through all of the
Yep,
items
yep,
here.
I
I'm
understand.
not-
And I thank you for that, pointing out the specifics. In terms of the special exception, will there be increases in traffic in the area? We do not believe so. Our experience with our other stores is that our customers typically travel on trips to other places and stop in for the convenience of the store while they're on the way to somewhere else. In other words, very rarely are we the destination to go to. It's typically somebody that's already out on the street, who's already traveling somewhere that will stop in when they need to pick up whatever our products are, or to grab a soda and crackers, whatever the case might be. So therefore, we would not anticipate that there would be any increase in the traffic on Union, Pembroke, and Stewart in that area. And then finally, we just wanted to point out again where it will be located. They will comply with whatever signage the township requires. They do not plan on, and they do not have in their other stores, ostentatious signs. I know that that's one of the issues that is a hot issue with smoke shops, is that the signage is just out of control sometimes. That is not what they do. That is not what they plan. We will comply with the sign ordinances. If we weren't going to, we would be asking you for some type of relief here tonight. So, if they weren't going to comply, they would have to get permission from you. And then we just want to also point out that where this store would be located, right on the corner of the Dollar General Market there is very open and accessible. There's lighting in the parking lot there. This will be something that will be clearly be able to be seen by the police, by the township officials. This is not hidden. This is not in the back. This is not off to the side. This will be a very visible area. So we know that, the township expects a certain standard. And we will live up to that standard. Again, their track record with their other stores sort of supports that. And we'll be right there front and center, on that corner, so that we can be regulated and seen. So that's there. I would ask Freak Ali, come up. And Mr. Ali.
Yes. Fareeq Ali.
Please spell your full name.
Fareeq, and then the last name is Ali.
And Mr. Ali, you heard what I just offered to the board as the evidence that we would have in this case. If I were to ask you those same questions, would you provide the same answers to the board?
Yes.
Was there anything else that you wanted to supplement, or did I get anything wrong, or or was there something that you wanted to expound upon?
I just want to add that we own a lot of businesses, like those businesses. We've been applying for the rules. We have businesses in Jersey. We have businesses in Pennsylvania, Shoemakerville. We have some in Philly, and we have some in everywhere in Jersey, Bayville, Parsippany, Pleasantville, like Atlantic City, Audubon, Cherry Hill. We've been following rules. We have good relationship with the township. We've always have a big sign outside. No one under 21 is allowed. no smoking inside the store, nothing like that. We've been running those business for many years. We never have any issue with the state or with the township. We never have any police enforcement like coming to the store for any other problem. We run it at the control systems. Even our workers is like very professional, very hired. Like we train them well to ask ID to everybody and to make sure we follow rules.
Great. And with that, Madam Chair, I offer Mr. Ellie for any questions from the board or from the public.
Yes, I do have one. How much of, what's the percentage of the store that is convenience versus smoke?
So basically, you could say 75% is convenience. So what we do is we sell like some exotic stuff. I don't know if you heard of that. It's something new. It's like there's snacks from Middle East, snacks from Europe, Belgiums, from Turkish. That we bring those stuffs in, which is like unique. People buy them. It's a little bit expensive, but it's kind of like, to try something else out of this. We add this to the business as part of our businesses that we do, and we just add that too. We have some like different types of teas and drinkings from, all different the world, like China, like Middle East, like Dubai, like, we bring those drinks. We bring like some unique stuff like gifts, like air fresheners, all this stuff like that, not like rated here, rated somewhere else. And we sell this as like, part of we call it as a convenience. This is part as a convenience. So we add that to our businesses.
Any other questions?
You also include vape shops?
Yes, this is that allowed. Like we requested, like if the state allowed this, we add that to that. If the state not allowed this, we never add it to any of our stores. But if the state is good and we get approved, the license that we approve, we pay all the taxes, we do add that to our businesses.
I had this question's for you, Counselor. Help me understand how I'm circling back to the radius requirement for residential zoning districts. I guess as it relates to the location. Can you explain again how you satisfying that threshold, and I guess part two of that is like if the plan was to do screening, if it was determined that you needed to, how would you do that for this location? Because from what I was looking at in the aerial view, this structure, like the main structure, is set back behind the parking lot. And so, like, how could you do screening? Like, I'm not sure. I guess I'm not seeing how you could even satisfy that threshold with this particular location.
Well, under the terms of, I think the township ordinance, again, this is something I would consult with the office on, and that's what I said, it's a little bit different. I think probably the anticipated, would be that, hey, when you've got a corner business, it's right next to a residential property, that you'd put up a fence, a 6-foot fence with slats or arborvitaes or something along those lines. We could put that up on the edge of the property here. I don't think the interpretation, but we would work with the office and have to abide by whatever they say, would be to put, like arborvitaes along the edge of the property, down Pembroke and all the way down Union. But if they wanted to screen it off or have a portion of that screened off, depending on where those residential properties were, again, I think technically we fall under that because certainly we're within 300 feet of a residential zoning district. When we go across Pembroke Avenue, that's a residential zoning district, even though, basically where we would be across the street from it, Danny's Corner Tavern takes up the whole side. So we would comply, depending on what Upper Darby tells us to do, and where they want it. I don't think Upper Darby probably wants a 6-foot fence, located on the border, out near the sidewalk, on Pembroke or Union. That's, probably, I think he would agree, not good planning. But we'll comply with what the ordinance says, any way you want us to. And I'm sorry, before, and that may perhaps look something like, like bushes or something like that closer to the building itself. Right up against the building, on that Pembroke Avenue side, again, right now it's paved parking lot, but, we would certainly, if you said, hey, if you put it in right next to the building, on that corner, okay.
You good?
Yeah.
So, given the pictures that you provided, the windows and the opening door are not facing Pembroke, they're facing Union Ave.
I believe that's the case.
Okay, so like, we're concerned about like 60 North Union Ave, which would be a residential property directly across the street with completely unobstructed views within the 300-foot parameter. In fact, actually, all residential properties would have an unobstructed view. So I'm going to have to reiterate my zoning board colleagues' question as to how you expect to satisfy the screening provision of our special exception. And if the property owner is here tonight that can maybe speak on this, on your behalf on this, because yeah, I mean, if you could go into more about explaining how you intend to comply with this protocol other than just saying like, we'll do what the zoning board asks, because the burden's on you to prove to us that you're meeting the requirement, not the other way around.
Sure. So we're talking, it looks like there's a truck parked in there, but that corner portion there, that is where the store would be. Yeah, I mean, to the left there where there's the red brick sidewalks, it looks like that's the tavern. And then as you go over, those are the properties that face that street that comes off of Pembroke. That's the Lansdowne.
Can't see that number. What was that?
About 180 feet. Again, we could locate, directly in front of or on both sides of the store, buffering. I mean, that would seem to make the most sense to me. I mean, I guess we would need
A plan or something.
interpretation, in terms of where you'd want that to be.
You mean like getting rid of this pavement between the cars here and putting in street trees and stuff? Is that what you're saying?
I mean,
And
it's,
doing that,
you want buffering down that way.
obviously we wouldn't do it for the entrance, but around the corner here.
But a lot of that sounds like, well, I'm assuming this is a lease, right? So a lot of that sounds like something outside of the purview of a tenant, or for this kind of, like a retail tenant, I would imagine this is your lease space extends to probably the outside of your structure, right? And nothing.
Well, he has the ability to use the parking areas.
Oh.
The lease space itself is the store that you see there where the truck is, but
I think the board member was asking the question, wouldn't the property owner have to get permission to make changes to the parking lot?
well, I don't know that there would be zoning relief that would be needed to put any sort of screening in, whether it would be close to the building or separate from that. The property owner is, I mean, we do represent the property owner. The property owner's not here tonight, I mean, but it was a joint application. So, again, if that's what, as it indicates, in the special exception standards, screening that would be adequate to zoning hearing board, you know, and to the township, and we're willing to do that, to talk about, not talk about it, but comply with it. We'd be happy to have a conversation about what, you know, you look as, you know, what the best planning for it would be. You know, whether you wanted it closer to the, you know, to the store itself, right outside of the store itself, or, you know, out, you know, along the sidewalk area. You know, basically, I guess it would be it makes sense to me between the sidewalk and, you know, the curb stops.
Like
you
you'd
know,
create
for
like
the
a
park.
like a tree lawn almost and plant some trees and shrubs and stuff. Like that's what you're saying? Like somewhere here?
Yeah.
I mean, you could get, I'm just thinking if you did it before what's the bumper thing before the car pulls up to it?
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know how much space that is, but you can get those huge pots and put the arborvitaes in there and just do like an L from all the way down, something like that. That's not digging into the ground to plant trees, but the pots are about half the size of this table in front of us, round.
I think stormwater wise, it'd probably be the preference to have them in the ground.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would it be, I mean, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but would that be something that the property owner would consider is if if they would go and get some type of plan or some type of like proof of like what they would do design wise to screen, since this may require parking lot changes?
Well, yes, I mean, anything that we would do is going to have to be approved by the office, and then they're going to want to plan for it. I mean, it would have to be, you know, some sort of landscaping plan. Again, it doesn't rise to the level of a development plan, but.
Well, yeah, I know. It's to satisfy the board. And so since that's the qualifications that we have in our special exceptions rule, we're going to need more than just like a sentence saying we'll plant trees and screen it, right? Like, because we have to make decisions. And so if that's something that you guys are amicable, I know we're getting ahead of it and we'll probably have a conversation about it, but I think that's kind of where this conversation is leaning towards a little bit.
You would like to see the plan of how the buffering would be.
What's their plan for screening? Like how they plan to comply with our screening provision in an actual, it doesn't have to be highly detailed. Honestly, it could be like a scribble. I don't need something super, super crazy, but anything.
Well, and yeah, yes, we could, but again, I would, you know, reference back to the requirement, you know, one of the standards for the special exception. You know, it's where we're located on a parcel within 300 feet of a residentially zoned property or institutional use. Smoke shop must include planted buffer, privacy fence, and/or other sound or visual barrier adequate to screen the adjacent residential properties from any activities on the premises to the satisfaction of the zoning hearing board. And I mean, like I said, we're willing to comply and, you know, collaborate on that. But I would also point out, I think the intent here is, you know, to minimize any of the effects of the store. And I asked the board, what are the effects that you're really concerned about? Again, with the store set back that far, it's not going to be sound. The visual effects, you know, any signage, you know, a residential neighborhood, a neighbor's still going to be able to see. I mean, I think in terms of improving the aesthetics of it, we're good with that. But, you know, before we get into a discussion, you know, quite honestly, of arborvitaes around the whole property, you know, I think the idea here and the intent is to make sure that any negative effects is offset. And I'd ask you, what are the negative effects that we're trying to offset here because of the positioning of where the store is? It is already set back farther. I think it would probably be more of an issue if, for instance, you know, Danny's Corner Tavern went out of business and somebody wanted to put a smoke shop there, where you literally have, you know, out the back alley and right next door, you know, the people living there in a residential property. But that's a little bit different than something in the middle of a shopping center. I just ask you to consider that.
I agree. I just would counter that the difference is between that store is that there's a plenty of square footage to meet this requirement. So there needs to be some type of a plan put in place to satisfy it. And there have been smoke shops that this board has approved in the past that have faced other commercial properties. So this one is specifically facing a residential property directly to its, I guess, what would that be? West? And so, and because there's no cuts along that strip, right? Like there is, and there's plenty of space and property to, like I said, do some type of screening to meet that requirement. And currently, I don't have anything, is what we're asking for, is like, we would like to see something. I think that's in the spirit and intent of the ordinance.
Perhaps you want to take a 5-minute recess and discuss with your client based on the comments of the board.
Sure.
And we're going to have a recess for 5 minutes. at 9:40.
So I think the couple of alternatives that we discussed would be either, and what Josh just suggested perhaps that would be preferable to the township would be to have some street trees, up at the top there on the Pembroke Avenue side. From where that, egress is, I guess, over. Or the alternative would be, again, closest to the actual building is that area on the Pembroke Avenue side of where the store is, to take up some of the park, or take up some of the macadam or the blacktop and put down, arborvitae's or screening, in that area. The front area there is the fire lane. We could do it on that side area there. But I think there's some space, there's space, above the parking, before the sidewalk, if that's what's preferable to the township, which is what Josh has suggested to me.
This is a question to Josh.
Yeah.
So, according to our zoning code, when it says residential properties, it doesn't specify that it has to be Upper Darby Township residential properties.
Yeah, it doesn't specify.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
what if we, is there any consideration of doing the Pembroke and also Union Ave?
Yeah, I would just say
Up until the
it
first curb
probably
cut.
doesn't need to go past where the store ends. Right, so between here and here. Is that what you're saying?
Sorry, can you do it again?
Yeah, so one end here,
Where's that?
obviously you wouldn't want anything in the side triangle,
Okay.
and then pick up the street trees down to here. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I'd assume they'd probably have to go a little lower because the properties below it can also see it diagonally, right? No, like that's still within the corner of the bottom of the block is still 264 feet away.
Yeah.
So
I'm
that
just
whole
trying to-
block would be in view.
I'm just trying to think, you'd want to stop where roughly, I would guess in line, more or less, with the store. And then throw some street trees in along here. Again, you gotta be careful with the bus stop, you gotta be careful with the the site triangle.
All the more reason why a plan would probably be helpful for the zoning board to be able to make up its mind. I had to make an educated guess if that's still something that can be put on the table. Because also, like, if you're making edits to the parking lot, like, we need to see circulation, we need to make sure that the parking requirements are still met, that the existing businesses that are there are gonna have access, like, still have enough parking spots, that your fire lane's gonna be able to be wide enough, and that you're gonna have a loading zone for the existing business. All of those things I think are gonna be affecting, even if you are just planting a couple of street trees, yes, but then how is this affected? Because like the parking spots go straight up to the sidewalk. So the parking spots have to be pushed back. Is there going to be enough space between the parking spots for a drive lane? That's where I'm going to continue to reiterate. I think some type of a plan would be helpful, and would also kind of solidify to make sure that we know that the property owner is going to be committed to doing these improvements.
Agreed.
If not, then I pass it off to the board if they wanted to proceed with a vote. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Is there any public comment on this application? Yes. Ma'am, if you can come up, state your name and address for the record again.
My name is Michelle Schofield, and I am a resident here in Upper Darby Township. Sure, 519 Millbank Road, Upper Darby, PA. I am opposed well, first, let me start back to, I mean, I am opposed to this variance and permit that's being asked. And for the reasons is that the property that is in discussion right now sits on the borderline of Upper Darby Township and Lansdowne Township. Now, I don't sit on the zoning or council for Lansdowne Township, but I know that Lansdowne has strict guidelines on how many businesses can be in their township. Like they only allow maybe like 3 barbershops, 3 bars, something like that. That neighborhood is pretty quiet. It's a beautiful tree-lined neighborhood. The Dollar Tree in that location, which the council has referred to it as the old Acme. It has been many things since then, which lets me know that he is disconnected from Upper Darby Township, that he does not live here. And to represent a client who also does not live here in Upper Darby Township and another applicant who wants to sublet and break down this building, you're taking away from the integrity of the neighborhood and what Dollar General Market stood for. Looking at their website, the DG Market is proud to be an American neighborhood general store. A general store sells a variety of items, from household to convenience store, snacks, beverages. Anyone that's ever shopped in a Dollar General knows that you can just get a little bit of everything there. Adding a convenient store smoke shop, to me, sounds like an exaggerated, unnecessary sublet business attached to this building. And I've also just learned through this conversation that the building, the Dollar General building, the business is actually just being leased on top of a land that doesn't belong to neither one of them. For this board to have engaged in more than 30 minutes of conversation about screening and making suggestions was you overstepping your boundaries. That is something that they were to discuss with an architect. Our job here is to is number one, to uphold our ordinances and to make sure that applicants are also going to respect our ordinances and respect the integrity of our township. So to engage in suggestions, putting up flowers or trees, putting up trees there, again, it disrupts the aesthetics of that neighborhood. That parking lot, that building has been many things to the community in which the community needs, which is a supermarket. In that area, they don't have a supermarket there for their neighbors to walk to. So if I'm going to shop there, which I have shopped there plenty of times over the 20 years that I've lived in this township, I don't want to be distracted by the glitz and lights and the smell of a smoke shop. I want to go to what I'm going there for, which is household items, family-friendly items. I want to have my children with me and not be distracted. The smoke shops, as we know here in this township, attracts nuisance. If the police department, the police superintendent was here, we can sit here and talk about how many times police have had to be called to the smoke shops in our township. That parking lot is big enough that although the owner is saying that his employees will be highly skilled and will respect and uphold the state and local ordinances and laws, they're not going to be responsible for their customers and what they do in that parking lot, which is sit in the parking lot, consume their paraphernalias that they just purchased from this store, and then start to drive in the streets of Upper Darby and Lansdowne, and East Lansdowne, and Gaydon. So I believe that adding that to this American business store doesn't make sense. It compromises the integrity of the building and the neighborhood. Also, my questions to the applicants as well as the council is, was this advertised to the neighbors in Lansdowne, which is across the street? Was this advertised to them? for them to be here and have a say?
It was posted on the property and it was advertised in the Daily Times.
So it was posted
So,
on the property,
Ma'am,
but it was
ma'am,
not?
this is public comment. It's your opportunity to
Okay.
address comments to this zoning hearing
Okay.
board. There's not
So
really
my
a
other
back and
question
forth.
is, will Skill Games be inside of that business?
The applicant has not testified about that, and if they do want to do that in the future, there's a different license, I believe. But I have not seen that in the application.
Okay, so just so that he knows that if you do approve this, that there is another application and another hearing that needs to be made. Because a lot of times, as I'm hearing, that people are starting to do stuff, and then once they're caught, they come in before this board. So also adding trees up around the property here in Upper Darby Township, the fences, when it's facing the street, cannot be any higher than 4 feet. It could be 6 feet if it's between a business, but the way that this property is outlined, it can't have really tall trees, whether it's going to be on Union or Pembroke. So I just wanted to make that clear for the record. And what else? And then when we talk about the schools, although the business sits more than 1,000 feet away from the schools, a lot of our students are commuters. And we already know what our children are getting into, and we don't need any more distractions or anything attracting them to come to, you know, they're walking by and then now they want to stop in. And although they're going to ask the customers for ID, but if you're standing outside and you are buying stuff through a third party or another adult that's standing there, the store owner has no control over that. So that's my concern about replying to the schools and the trees and attracting nuisance activity. Because although they're not going to allow consumption inside the store, the consumption in the parking lot becomes the community's issue, and then it becomes a burden on our police departments. And that is it.
Thank you for your comment. Council, any further closing comments or any, want to touch base again on zoning hearing board member that's again asked for a plan?
Yeah, I will say that, you know, the special exceptions, as this board may have heard in the past, attorneys, it's the most overworked phrase. There are neither special nor an exception under Pennsylvania law. Special exceptions are written into the code that the use that's being asked for is permitted use as long as you can meet these certain standards. We looked at these standards. We've given you a lot of testimony tonight. In regards to having a plan the plan is not required, you know, under your ordinance that is, you know, not that old. That being said, you know, we've indicated that we would comply by putting some type of buffer or other barrier up in order to mitigate the effects, if any, of what the smoke shop would be. So I don't know how to address that at this point. I mean, I respect Mr. McIntyre's, request on that, but I mean, if we do plans and we keep going back and forth, I don't know. I mean, I think if you wanted to put as a condition that there be, a landscaping plan that would be approved by, your zoning office, we would be acceptable to that. We're not trying to avoid the requirement, but it's too amorphous at this point because, your requirement's only several lines long, and I think we've attempted to meet that. Otherwise, I think we've met the requirements of what the special exception is for that. I understand Ms. Schofield's just general objections to smoke shops in general, but Upper Darby Township has very specifically looked at these things and put out the rules for them as it's a legitimate use that must be entertained just like any other legitimate use. And I am sensitive to what the effects on the neighborhood would be. In all due respect, my mother-in-law lives around the corner on Price Avenue. from this, and I live a half a block from Upper Darby Township. I'm familiar. I live in Alden Borough, and I live between, Upper Darby Township, a half a block away from one of your shopping centers in Upper Darby Township. I'm very appreciative of, the planning difficulties and what we look to do in order to improve the neighborhood. So I'll leave it at that.
Want to do an exec session? Do you want to table an exec session? Go move on to the other applications? Because it's getting.
Yes.
So we're going to table doing an exec session to further discuss in the interest of time in order to move on with our hopefully next two applications before our cutoff at 10:30 that announced on the agenda. So the next case, which I'll let the chair introduce, is 2-4 of 25.
David Gulick and Micheline Uller, is that pronounced right? 5260 Palmer Mill Road, Drexel Hill, parcel ID is there, it's an R3 residential district, requesting a variance from section 558A to permit a triplex. B, variance from section 550-33B7 to construct a new parking space out of previous pavers. And C, a variance from section 550-33D2 to permit the stacking of parking spaces.
And for the record, we'll mark ZHB1 as a copy of the application packet, ZHB2 as a copy of the notice, and ZHB3 as a copy of the proof of publication. And the applicant has come up to this podium. If we can have you sworn in.
Can you raise your right hands, please? Swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to
Yes. David Gulick.
Micheline Fuga.
So why don't you go through what it is that you propose on the property?
Okay. First of all, I have poster postings. I didn't know whether you said you all needed evidence that we had posted the posters, so I have copied those. I don't know who I should send.
I'll accept those.
And there's two different emails. One was the initial posting, and then we had damage on the one poster with high winds, and we reposted them, I think, the following day. That's what those are from.
Thank you.
Okay, excuse me. I had a phone conversation with Joshua Chast. I believe I got that right. Okay. On January 22nd, 2025. I told him what we were looking at, and he had mentioned that we needed to submit for 3 different variances with the zoning board, and that being the 550-33D2, stacking, which is the stacking of parking spaces, 550-33A, the off-street parking additional space, and the 550-8A, which is the R3 permitted use change from a duplex to a triplex. So my wife and I bought the property in December of last year. The existing condition, it's a property at 5260 Palmer Mill Road. It's registered as a duplex within an R3 zone.
Although it is registered as a duplex, when we purchased it, the
I'll get-
basement had been subdivided into a third
I'll
unit.
get there. Each unit within the duplex is a 2-bedroom apartment needing 2 parking spaces per unit, giving a total of 4 spaces per your 55-33A table 8-1. And according to 550-33D2, stacking is not permitted except for single-family dwellings. And these were submitted with the initial application, but I made larger pictures so I can actually point to it. So per the sketch, it shows the existing condition that we bought the property as a duplex, this being the house side of 5260, this being Palmer Mill Road. And so you would enter this is all open here. And with the duplex, you have, the only way you can put in your required spaces is by stacking. So it shows the existing parking condition where stacking was allowed for the current duplex. So basically there's no changes required since we are not adding to the stacking. Okay, so again, unit A would be this way, unit B would be this way. Plenty of off-street parking for each apartment within the duplex. In essence, a single-family dwelling stack amongst itself is allowed in 550-33D2. Okay? Staying with the parking situation, we have existing, if you do the math here, it's 1,248 square feet of paved off-street parking, while we only need 810 square feet for 5 9x18 spaces as per your regulations. And we're looking to add an efficiency, like my wife said, to the lower level, which requires one additional parking space. That's how we arrived at 5 spaces. So this would be then our new orientation, keeping the stacking within the units, adding the additional space over here. And in order to do that, we're looking to add a 9x12 area. We'd like to keep the impervious material to a minimum. I know in your regulations it says that you need pavers or concrete or asphalt on here, but we'd like to actually keep the impervious material to a minimum, and we'd like to add this area to the existing off-street parking by using AgTech heavy-duty driveway and truck paving grid pavers. They're an interlocking system. And this would be to the variance of 550-33B7, which uses pervious pavers. And here, excuse me, here's what those pervious pavers look like. And again, I think that was on the application. So once they all interlock. We are also proposing the change of use from a duplex to a triplex by using the lower level walkout section of the building as an efficiency. Roughly 410 square feet is the efficiency size. It gives easy access by way of walking out onto the ground level. This would give an opportunity for the lower cost rentals in the area. And like my wife had said initially, when we originally purchased the property, the unit actually showed had been set up for an efficiency previously. So we are not doing any changes to the structure, plumbing, or electrical, only cosmetic upgrades. Permits will be pulled if needed at a later date. So currently we're seeking to officially change the property to a triplex and designate the units as A, B, and C. You have anything to add? Have any questions at this point?
Yes, I do have a question. So the unit that you said already existed and you want to make it
We want to make it official, yes.
a 410 square foot efficiency?
Yes.
Is this like a down, you walk down? How do you?
No, it's a surface. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
So basically, the lowest level, if you drive down into the driveway, there's just a door to walk in, but the property is sloped. So if you took the sidewalk in from the street, you would come in on the level above. So it's almost like an embankment. So no, you don't have to go down. You can just park, get out of your car and walk right in.
And that's for the, okay, efficiency level.
Exactly.
And then the entrance for the first and second floor?
The entrance for the first and second floor is the main entrance off the sidewalk. So if they park in their spots, they walk up the side of the driveway and then take the sidewalk in up the stairs. And then they have a central hallway that they share to the second and third floor.
Can you show me where the driveway is on this diagram you're holding?
Sure. This is Palmer Mill Road. This whole section is the existing parking space lot. So there's a curb cut for that whole area. Down, since the house is here, the access to the lower level is right here. And to get to the upper level, you would walk on the sidewalk, not the sidewalk along Palmer Mill Road, but there is another sidewalk that goes to the front side of the building. And like my wife said, you can then get to the middle level and then the upper level from there.
The sidewalk that you're referencing now, that's within your property?
Yes.
That's not like a public right of way? You're talking about like a sidewalk or someone built to get from the, okay.
Yes.
So, I'm sorry, did you?
No. Good.
So the diagram that you're holding,
Yes,
the access to the, I'm gonna call it the lower level,
yes,
is like adjacent to where I guess the front A is?
yes.
So if someone's parked there, how do you access that? Or more importantly, egress if there's like some type of emergency?
Oh, yeah. There's at least, I'm guessing about eight or so feet between this here to the side of the house itself.
Okay.
There's a lot of room, and your parking spaces, your 9x18s are actually quite large. So the car could float anywhere within there. And you also have all this space over here.
Okay.
So there's a lot of space in which to walk around. It's just the configuration of the existing parking lot does not allow for an efficient way to park all the units. That's why we're looking at this.
And the curb cut, I imagine, is
It's all
right here.
Yeah, it's
so
right
you would
here.
turn. Now, is there and I'm just using like where you put the yellow
Yes.
rectangles. I don't know if that's to scale or not, but.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so the new parking space that you're proposing,
Right.
if a car is parked there, the stacked cars can't exit, right? Like that would happen.
They can pull them right out. That's
So
why.
that's to scale is what you're
That
saying?
is to scale, exactly.
So if a car is parked where C is,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
How does the cars stacked in B get out?
They go right back out. Because it comes right out to the road here.
Josh, can you pull it up on the screen?
And don't forget, this is a parking space. This is not a car, because the car will be within that parking space. You guys, by your ordinance, it has a much larger space than that car.
Okay. Okay, got it. Right.
But are you concerned that C getting back onto the street, if they're able to turn around, is there enough distance?
Yes, you can, I've tried it. You can actually go just like that. Again, this whole thing is a curb cut.
How far does your property line go, I guess, west on your board?
This way?
Yeah.
It goes, maybe 25 feet at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful. Okay.
Yeah, I tried to get a good picture of that, but I couldn't because that tree was so large.
Got it. That's, okay. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, we're at a corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone with public comment?
You can give your name and address again for the record.
Yeah. Michelle Schofield, 519 Millbank Road, Upper Darby, PA. My comment would be about the stackable parking spaces, what that's looking like in a residential neighborhood, what that's going to look like to their neighbors who they share the driveway with, and the noise that it would be making when that is being activated. So that would be my only concern to that. And then when I saw a permit for a triplex, I always thought a triplex was 3 stack, but I understand that they just want to use the lower level or the basement as a living space. So I guess, that'll fall within the requirements when it's inspected by our inspector to make sure that that is, classified as a proper living space. And it's not really a triplex, but I guess, that's something that you will work out, Josh, and the L&I inspector will work out. But my opposition would be to that stackable parking. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Do you have any other further comments before the board renders a vote?
I can address some of her concerns there. First of all, we're not changing really the existing stackable piece because it was already a duplex. The only way you could park, and it was accepted, was a stackable lot. So, I mean, Josh had mentioned that we needed to apply for that variance, but in reality, we're grandfathered in because it was a duplex. You always had a stacked condition. And I know at one point she mentioned about a shared drive. This is not a shared drive. This is all on our property. There is no other people that were, or residents that were sharing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add, as far as concerns about noise or look, as you saw from the picture, it's at the end of 2 busy roads. So, we already have road noise coming through, but in general, we're revitalizing the property. It was just owned by an older woman who couldn't quite keep up with it. It's quite overgrown. I think when we're done with it, it's going to look much nicer and much cleaner, because right now, the part going along the street side of it almost looks like an abandoned property with the overgrowth of ivy and things like that. So I think it will look nice.
One question I have. Okay, you say it was a triplex and that it was existing already as a triplex?
I don't.
No.
Did you pay taxes on it as a triplex?
I don't think it was. It was set up as a triplex, but it was not legally put in as a triplex. That's why we're here, to go that extra step and put this efficiency in. And again, it's hopefully for the benefit of the community and making a lower cost rental unit available.
We don't know the entire history of the property, but the previous owners were a family. So it was like a mother in one unit, the daughter in another unit, and I think they may have just started building up
Grandparent
for
put them
another
down below.
member, but not have done it officially and with pulling the front.
According to the utilities, and I know the utilities basically base whatever the occupant tells them, but it is broken out as 3 different units by the utilities as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the application?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Your application's been approved 3-0. You'll receive a letter from my office, and you'll be able to be in touch with Josh on the next steps. So our last hearing this evening, 2-6 of 25. Okay. This is Booker Boutique and Model Maestri LLC, the applicant and Miss, apologize, I'm not gonna be able to say the owner's name, MAHMUD is the owner, for a parcel at 16-01-01531-00, 6826-28 Westchester Pike, Upper Darby in the C Commercial District. The applicant seeks a special exception pursuant to section 550-8.A to permit a banquet hall / event space on the second floor and an office / admin space on the third floor. For the record this evening, we're going to mark Zoning Hearing Board 1 a copy of the application packet. Zoning Hearing Board 2 will be a copy of the notice, and Zoning Hearing Board 3 will be the proofs of publication, and we'll mark as applicant 1 a copy of the prior Zoning Hearing Board decision that this board rendered. Is that what I'm, oh, no, I apologize.
No.
We were discussing a different case. So I'll let the applicant mark his own exhibits then as A1 collectively.
Yeah, A1, it's actually A1 through 4. If it, good evening, Peter Mylonas, Mylonas, Supreme Court ID number 52562. Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, board members, solicitor. I'm representing the applicant Booker Boutique and Model Mastery LLC. This is for the premises at 6826-28 Westchester Pike, which is literally 2 blocks away. That's where the, right on Market Street, where the current halal fried chicken store is on the ground floor. And so what we're making an application for a special exception is the space on the second floor, which is comprised of 3,168 square feet, and the third floor, which is comprised of 728 square feet. And essentially what the applicant is seeking is a special exception pursuant to section 550-8.A to permit a banquet hall and event space on the second floor and an office administrative space on the third floor. Walking the board through the applicant's exhibits, number 1 would be the commercial lease agreement, an addendum that's dated December 13th, 2024. And within that lease, it defines the fact that the applicant is the commercial tenant, therefore we have standing, and that the use is specifically just limited to the second floor and third floor for that proposed use. And Exhibit A2 are the hand-drawn diagram layout of the second floor, and A3 is the hand-drawn diagram and layout of the third floor. And then A4 finally are the photos of both the second and third floor in their current condition. And essentially, what the applicant will be utilizing the space for will be for modeling and rehearsals for young women ages 5 through 25 for modeling school, and also to hold public events, modeling events, as well as private events as far as baby showers or bridal showers on the second floor space, bar mitzvahs, and that type of activity. And the testimony would show that the applicant would be utilizing that space on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays between the hours of 12 p.m. through 6 p.m. for modeling school and modeling rehearsals for those young women. And then the testimony would also show that on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays and Sundays, there would be modeling events and or private functions for baby showers and bridal showers and the like, again, between the hours of 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. The applicant would have a staff maximum of 20 people, and the parking is such that the there's public parking across the street and metered parking, and there are parking lots there on Market Street that take care of all of the customers and the shops along Market Street. So that's not necessarily a problem. And I would have Rachel Booker, who is the principal of the applicant, be able to testify and to address some more detail as well.
And if you could just throw up the aerial so we can see the location of the property with the parking garages across the street, that might be helpful for the board.
Sure.
And let's have you sworn in when we're waiting.
Can you raise your hand, please?
Sure.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony?
Yes.
Your name, please?
Rachel Booker, Booker.
And you are the principal, the sole member of the applicant, Booker Boutique and Model Mastery LLC.
Yes.
And directing your attention to the commercial lease agreement, Exhibit A1. This is the commercial lease that your LLC, the applicant, entered into with the landlord.
Yes.
And the lease is contingent, there's a contingency for zoning approval, correct?
Yes.
And the second floor space is 3,160 square feet.
Yes.
And the second floor, that's the second floor. The third floor is 720 square feet.
Yes, with an addition of 280 in hallways and stairways
Okay. And
upstairs.
then focusing your attention on the third floor, what is the proposed use for the third floor?
Just office space only.
Okay, and
And
administrative.
administrative space.
Okay. And the second floor, what is the proposed use for, and if you can describe what the modeling business will entail?
It's a banquet hall, event space. And we would do, have training, modeling training, and hold rehearsals there as well. As he mentioned, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays between the hours of 12 and 6. And as far as the event space would be Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. 4 hours per event.
And how much staff or employees would the applicant LLC have to conduct these modeling classes and rehearsals and events?
For the events, during the events is 20 total. For the trainings, we have 8.
And for the second floor, what's the maximum amount of space as to the number of persons capacity on the second floor?
It can hold up to 250, but my limit for our staffing is 100, between 100 and 150, and that's including staff.
And if you can explain to the board how the parking would be addressed as far as for your patrons for the modeling events or private events.
There are 2 spots in front of the banquet hall, and then you have
When you say
free-
2 spots, what do you mean by that?
2
Parking areas?
parking spaces, yeah, in front.
Okay.
And
You're
then-
talking about immediately on Market Street?
Yes.
Okay.
Right out front.
Right, okay.
And then there's free parking, which is about a block and a half away behind the movie theater.
Okay.
And then there's also parking about a half a block across the street.
And that's the
with
parking,
food.
and Josh is using the marker to indicate the parking lot behind the movie theater.
Yes, and that's free parking. And then across where the, next to where SEPTA bus depot is, there's also free parking down, well, with the fee parking as
And that,
well.
and that's what Josh is
And that's about a
depicting.
half a block away. Yes.
All right. And then what were the prior uses for the second and third floor spaces of that building?
I was told that prior to me getting it, it was a hookah bar or hookah lounge, and then before that, it was a jazz lounge.
And I would, the board would take note that the property has been commercial all the way back into the 1930s, when it was originally the Horn and Hardart, which you could still see the vague signage on the front facade.
It's a restaurant.
Then I think it was a McDonald's in the 70s, and variations of restaurants through the 80s and the 90s and such.
It's a very unique building. It's a good, nice building.
And directing your attention to Exhibit A2, which is the hand-drawn diagram of the second floor, explain to the board what the details would be as far as, for instance, there's not going to be any prepared foods or any alcohol or drinks of that sort.
Non-alcohol, non-smoking facility. We pretty much do our trainings there. It's just event space where we would have shows, modeling shows, or if we rent the space out, which we would rent the space out with our staff, we would just do the hosting for us, just being available if anybody, need to know where anything is or need help with the things that they bring there.
Regarding private parties or bridal
Wedding-
showers.
Weddings, bridal showers, receptions, things of that nature.
And then on this diagram, A2 of the second floor, to the left side of the diagram, you have a juice bar, if you can elaborate.
As far as the juice bar, it'd just be bottled drinks.
And,
Or packaged snacks.
and on the lower left, and on the lower left?
That's for the snacks,
Okay, so no,
packaged snacks.
so you're not preparing any food,
No.
there's no kitchen in the second floor?
There is just a little area where we would store packaged food.
Okay. And you said that your intended capacity would be approximately 100 patrons, 125
Yes,
patrons?
between 100 and 125.
And then,
And that's during a show, if we have an event.
but otherwise, during, as far as for modeling classes and rehearsals, what would be the number of patrons in that capacity?
Between 40 and 80.
And then turning your attention to Exhibit A3, the hand-drawn diagram of the third floor, what does this depict?
That's the office space. When you first come up to the top step, it's a waiting area. And then to the left of that are two office areas. There's a restroom and there's a staff lounge.
Okay. And directing your attention to Exhibit A4, which are comprised of photographs, what does the first photograph depict? What floor is that?
That's the second floor, and that's where the modeling training and events will be held.
And that's looking out towards Market Street.
Yes.
And the next photograph is looking the opposite direction, looking inward
Yes,
on that second
on
floor.
the second floor.
And this is where the modeling would take place.
Yes,
And also the special events that you described and testified to.
yes.
And then the third photograph
And that's another photograph looking out to Market Street.
from the second floor.
Yes,
And then the next photograph
that's the third floor office waiting area.
and the next photograph after that
Just another angle of the waiting area
on the third
on
floor.
the third floor. Yes,
All right. And the next one after that, it's
that's one of the office space
on the third floor.
on the third floor.
And the next
And
photograph?
that's the second office
Okay.
area.
And then this picture of stairwell
That's the stairwell up to the waiting area.
from the second floor
From
to the
second
third floor.
To the third, yes.
And then the next photograph after that, the landing
Yes, that's also.
on the third floor.
On the third floor,
And then depicting one of the restrooms.
yes.
On,
That's on the second floor, that's the restroom. There's two restrooms on the second floor and one on the third.
and briefly testify to what the business model is for the Booker Boutique and Model Mastery.
We have, we train students from the age of 5 to 25. What they do is 4 different trainings that they take. And, it just prepare them for our shows, the events that we have. And, after completing, a 6 month course of training for modeling, the 4 courses for modeling, we have an event, for a fashion show. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. A fashion show, displaying our clothing line for Boca Boutique.
And your request is not harmful to the health, safety, and general welfare of the neighborhood there on Market Street, is it?
Absolutely not.
And your,
Parents, I'm sorry not to cut you off, just to elaborate a little bit. Our, the children, parents attend, family members. Most of our events are, the attendees are family.
and your request is suitable for the property in question and designed, constructed, operated, and maintained so as to be in harmony with and appropriate in appearance to the existing character of the general neighborhood, the vicinity?
Yes.
And your request is also in conformity with all applicable requirements of Section 550-8.A with respect to the need for special exception?
Yes.
And your request does not create any unreasonable traffic conditions or lead to any undue congestion and not create any street access that is inappropriate for the use intended?
No.
And your request is designed in such a manner as to be respectful of the environment? There's no environmental impact, is there?
No.
And your request is suitable for the proposed location and does not place any undue burden on the public services, including police, fire protection, public water, sewer, public schools, nothing of that sort?
No.
And lastly, your request is not based on any financial hardship or conditions created by the applicant.
No.
Any questions from the board?
Any board questions?
Yeah. Where are your stairway going out of this second floor out to the street?
I didn't get a picture of that, but it extends from that stairway that you see in that picture. It extends from that, so it's a small hallway area, and then it goes down to
It
the street.
it actually goes out to Market Street.
Oh, yeah.
I'm concerned relative to the fact that you'll be 100 people in a room. If anything happens, trying to leave all at once.
Well, we have.
There's 2 stairways for it to come down.
Well, we have
one
also, also have a fire escape exit as well on both floors.
And I believe the building has been inspected through the years from the township perspective, that it is fire
I think in one of-
code compliant.
I'm sorry, in one of the pictures, you should be able to see the other exit. Both floors have an additional fire escape exit in the rear
And
of
I
the building.
believe, Josh, you would be able to verify that the building has been inspected in the context of fire code, that there's egress, there's multiple egress.
Is there
So
sprinkler
it,
system?
it wouldn't be through us, it would be through licensed inspections, but right, they would, any approved application would have to be, right, go through building permit fit out and would be checked for occupancy and then compliance with any other building codes.
We were referencing the prior approved occupancy of 250 persons for the hookah bar and the private uses that were in the past uses.
Yeah, but I won't have up to that many. My limit is 150 according to the staff that I will have available.
I have a question, actually it's probably more of a statement. So it sounds like you have 2 kind of sort of very distinct uses on the second floor. One being, I guess, the event space rental for events, whether it's modeling events or I guess any other type of events that you would be permitted under that use. Then you have like this educational, like modeling school training component, which seems very distinct to me. And maybe this is a zoning code question, but it doesn't seem like the application reflects those uses, or unless I'm misunderstanding like what comes along with the banquet hall approval. It seems like it almost seems like a modeling school essentially,
Yeah,
right?
it's modeling training But it's done on, it's, the modeling training is done Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays between the hours of 10 and 6 p.m. And
Right.
then,
I guess
12,
I
sorry,
understand.
12 and 6 p.m., I'm sorry. And then far as the events, they're held Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
And they're primarily modeling
Yeah,
events.
the majority of them model events. Now, if we have someone that want to use the space
Right.
for, say, a wedding, bridal shower,
Baby shower.
baby
Right.
shower, then we'll allow them to use that space for a 4-hour period.
Right. So
On
like
those specific days between the hours of 6 p.m. and 10.
so I understand that they're happening on different days. Like that, I think you've communicated clearly. But our approval isn't like an approval for one use for one day and another use for another day, right? Like if you get an approval for event space, you can do it any day you're allowed to be operating, right?
Right.
And I guess the same thing goes for and I'm not even sure how to characterize this other use, but whatever that other use is,
Training.
whatever we want to call it, you can do that any day you want as well.
But those are my scheduled
Right.
days surrounding the staffing that I have. Those are the days that we set to have those.
I understand. So I guess so here's the question.
Okay.
Do you want to amend the application to more accurately reflect what you're trying to do?
Yes, in other words, based on the testimony, that, yes, we would amend it to reflect the fact that it would be modeling rehearsal usage as well as for private events.
So a question for the zoning officer, does that implicate any other zoning sections then?
No, they're
In terms of like the modeling school,
Yeah,
let me just do a
so obviously.
cursory glance at the use table. This is in the C3. We have instructional schools as a use. Let me see. Instructional schools, martial arts, dance, etc. This would probably fit into that same vein. Yeah, it's right. And that is a permitted use in the C3. So the only thing that would need, right, the special exception is the special event component of it. Because that is an allowed use, institutional in all commercial districts.
So the
Not institutional,
modeling
instructional.
school component is by right, simply the event space.
It's having events in the event space, yeah.
Does that clarify your question then?
Yeah, I think it does. And so, but that doesn't trigger any like multiple use issues
There's already multiple uses in this property.
on the one floor.
Because it's already multiple floors. So it would have already been multiple uses. Because
Okay.
there's a fried chicken restaurant below.
So then they wouldn't need to amend the application then to.
I
address that.
don't think so. I don't
If
I
it was
don't believe
only
so.
the school, they wouldn't be here.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification, but yes.
I just wanted to make sure you're getting approval for what you want. to
Right.
happen.
Okay,
Right.
thank you,
So just
appreciate
say
it.
event space down the line.
So I have a couple questions. The more clarifying questions, if anything. So when you, I see here, like obviously for your juice bar and stuff like that, like you have like non-alcoholic, but in the case that you were doing it like an event space and you were doing a wedding, would you be having alcohol on the premise?
No, it would be non-alcohol.
Okay, all right. And you'd be okay if we add that as a condition?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Perfect. Here's my other question. Do you know the last time the building was inspected for structural integrity? Because it is an old building and we're talking about a lot of people. It's okay if not, it's just putting that on your radar.
Yeah, the owner is, our understanding, the owner is relatively new as well. He's
Okay.
only owned it for a short while.
Okay.
It should have gone through a commercial resale inspection So it should have been, with a new owner, it should have been inspected by licensed inspections. And then if there were any structural issues, they would have asked for an engineering report there. Would be my assumption, as long as they did it, which I can't confirm or deny now.
Gotcha. Thank you. And then this is another question, and because we had this conversation a little bit earlier, maybe this is a little bit beyond my purview, so I'll get yelled at about it later. And this is not a requirement, this is just a suggestion, because we're dealing with like another historic building in Upper Darby. What are your plans for exterior signage if you're doing it on the second floor, since there are so many structural and architectural elements? Like, if you do plan to do like any signage for your business, like, do you have any ideas yet as how you would do that? This is not our purview, by the way. This is just me making a friendly suggestion to make sure to take these things into consideration because of how architecturally important this building is.
Yes. The signage, the top of the building, I will not touch. I will leave that the way it is. The lower level, right in the front entrance of the door where I have the postings at,
Mhm.
I will have a, ironing.
Okay.
That comes over the front
That's
door
fine.
with my, name and logo on there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's fine. Oh, and then this is just another question because you mentioned runway and stage, and I see in this picture like kind of a setup of a stage. And I guess my question was, are you going to do any structural additions? Like, is there going to be any elevated stage? Are you adding any weight to the floor?
Just, portable stages, just portable. They can break down, I can put them up as needed.
Okay, thank you.
Council, I can't remember if you touched on this, but I know we talked about parking, but can you talk a little bit about, particularly because it's an event space use, loading and unloading, and is there a loading zone particular for this building and like how are you gonna facilitate that on this street? Because I think we all kind of are pretty familiar.
Well, in the context of proposed use, there's not really any loading per se, other than.
Well, if you're having weddings, events, party, like,
We would just, we have staff that's gonna just carry things up and down the stairs, bring things in and out.
And then what is actually being addressed is essentially the lane there, the right lane on Market Street there would be where the cars would just park temporarily to unload
That's
and then
those-
move on.
Yeah, those two spots.
And the parking
Right in
spaces
front of
there.
the building.
that they're reserved for that building is what you?
No, they're public metered.
Right.
Oh, well,
But
okay.
I would, at the time that if we need to maybe have say a truck that needs to bring, we would reserve those two spots ahead of time.
You'll have to pay for them.
Yes, definitely, we have to pay for it, yes.
There's also an alley behind.
Yeah, and there's
Oh,
also
there-
a driveway in the rear.
Yeah, there's an alley that connects to Ludlow Street. A shared alley. I don't know if there's an entrance from there though.
Yeah, it is. Other businesses use it, go in and out. That's where the fire escapes are.
I can bring that up if you guys want.
Chicken there, and then, in the rear alley, all of the floors have access to the rear alley.
Here, I'll pull it up just for clarity. So this is right at the back. And then they have a rear alley that connects to Ludlow Street down here. I can't really see in, but I assume there's some sort of,
Yeah.
There it is, yeah. Yeah, those are the white doors there.
This is my last question. I mean, it's kind of redundant. You kind of already touched on it, but is as parking, I guess the expectation is, I mean, you're right next to the 69th Street terminal, so we're dealing with a very, very exceptional case. I'm assuming that you expect a majority of your patrons, clients, et cetera, be taking public transit. Like, they know
Yes,
that that's a
person.
terrible traffic area.
Yeah, and
Okay.
or they'll be dropped off.
Okay, all right. All right, that's it. All right.
Is there any public comment on this application? Seeing none.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve this application. Can I get a second?
Were you going to do a condition on the alcohol?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, non-alcoholic
There
use.
will be a condition added to that approval of no alcoholic beverages on the premises.
So there's a,
I don't drink it. I don't want any alcohol in there.
Okay, great.
a motion with the condition. There was a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, your application has been approved and you will receive something in the mail in 45 days.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Okay, so now we're going to go into exec session for a few minutes. Oh, we're back on the record with the prior application. Council requested to come back before we go to exec session and deliberate.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and Board. After the hearing, I have had the opportunity to speak a little bit more with the client. And once again, even though we think we've met the parameters, if it would make it easier for the board to decide if we want to take this time from now until the next meeting, we will get some type of a landscaping plan, try to put together to show alternatives for the board's consideration, if that's what the hangup is, or if that's the condition that we need
I
to
think the
show.
board would certainly respects that and will certainly take you up on that, and would appreciate seeing that amended, or seeing that plan in order to address that condition that most of the questions focused on. So I think if you're okay with it, we'll continue the hearing to March 25th with the expectation that you will be presenting additional evidence of a proposed plan to address that condition of the special exception criteria.
Yeah, and as soon as I can get it done, I'll submit it to Mr. Chase it could be circulated. I don't know how long that's going to take. I anticipated, this is going to be not a plan that would be typically including as a landscaping tile in a land development plan.
And I think the board understands that, but I think they wanted to see something in order to address that criteria.
Okay, I just want to temper expectations, as it turns out.
Understood. And as soon as you have it, probably best to share it with the zoning officer prior to the hearing, so that way if there's any immediate comments as well, especially dealing with the frontage of where the building is versus the neighboring 300 feet of properties.
Thank you for your consideration there.
Thank you.
And thank you to
Thank
your
you.
client
Thank you.
to recognizing some of the concerns and spending an additional time to address the board's concerns. We appreciate that as well. So thank you, sir.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.